Hey guys, tonight we're stepping barefoot into a world where the floor is dirt. Your alarm clock is the freezing wind, and breakfast doesn't come in a reprette crawls. You're waking up in the Stone Age. That's right. No mattress, no coffee, no socks, and definitely no Wi-Fi. Just cold bones, stiff limbs, and the realization that the floor is a damp patch of mossy rock under your spine. The sun hasn't even peeked over the tree line, but the day's already begun without you. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And drop a comment with your location and local time. I love seeing where everyone's drifting off from. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You open your eyes, and the first thing that greets you isn't a phone screen or the smell of toast. It's the sensation of dampness creeping through animal hide. Your bediff. You can even call it that. A few layers of fur thrown over packed earth. Your roommates are snoring a few feet away, bundled under the same skins, their breath forming clouds in the frigid morning air. It's not exactly cozy. You instinctively curl into a tighter ball. Cold has a way of invading your bones, especially when you've got no socks, no insulation, and zero central heating. There's no thermostat to crank up. If you want warmth, you'll have to make it, but that comes later. First, you have to get up. Outside the cave or the lean-to you slap together with sticks and sinew. The sky is a deep steel gray. The kind of cold that bites your face waits for you out there. Historians still argue whether Stone Age humans were primarily cave dwellers or more migratory. But what they do agree on is this: mornings sucked, especially in winter. There's no gentle sunrise soundtrack or meditation app to coax you awake. Just the sharp pain of stepping onto frozen ground barefoot. And yet, you do it because you have to. The tribe stirs with grumbles and coughs. Nobody's cheerful. Survival doesn't make space for morning people. You'd laugh if your jaw wasn't clenched from the cold. Your breath puffs in front of you in small clouds, and the ground crunches with a light frost. Someone's already up, hacking at yesterday's fire pit with a stick, trying to spark life back into embers that barely survived the night. You feel a wave of pity, or maybe relief. It's not your turn. And here's the fun part. You don't even know what time it is. Time isn't something you track with digit. You read it in the sky, in bird songs, in the way shadows fall across the dirt, and if you mess up your guess, you might miss your best chance to find food, stay warm, or avoid something hungry that thinks you look delicious. You glance at the pile of charred sticks where the fire used to be. Fire is everything now. Without it, you're not just cold, you're vulnerable. You can't cook, can't boil water, can't keep the predators back. Fire means life, but fire also means effort. If there's no ember to coax back, you're stuck rubbing sticks together, literally. And if your hands are already shaking from the cold, good luck. One of your tribe mates mutters something and points to a pile of kindling. You nod, swallowing a groan. Looks like it is your turn. Here's a reality check. Starting a fire with no modern tools is an art. A sweaty, blister-inducing, infuriating art. You kneel in front of the fire pit, your fingers already raw, and pick up a fire bower-looped string attached to a stick. You loop it around a spindle of wood, brace it against your thigh, and start sewing back and forth. Fast. Then, faster. The friction heats the spindle's tip, which rests in a tiny notch carved into another piece of wood. Smoke curls. You nearly cry. The ember, if you're lucky enough to get one, gets carefully dropped into a bundle of dry grass and bark. You blow gently, the way your ancestors have done for tens of thousands of years. When it finally catches, there's a collective sigh. Warmth is coming. Barely. You're sweating from the effort, but your toes are still numb. Here's your first true taste of Stone Age life. Nothing is guaranteed. Not even warmth. Everything has to be earned. If you don't wake up early and fight for fire, someone else might. And if no one does, well, let's just say hypothermia isn't a historical footnote, a real possibility. And speaking of possibilities, let's talk about the way you slept. On your side, bad choice, your shoulders aching. On your back, not unless you enjoy inhaling ash, bugs, and the occasional smoke draft. And heaven helped you if you snore, because someone might literally kick you for wasting heat or making noise. Still think you'd last a day. And here's your first mainstream historical fact of the night. Researchers have found clear evidence of sleep disruption in ancient shelters. People often slept in shifts, with at least one person awake to tend fires or keep watch. A full 8 hours. Cute, You were lucky to get 5, and those were fragmented. Your first quirky fact. Some groups used to keep embers in hollowed-out animal horns wrapped in moss, basically inventing the world's first prehistoric thermos. It didn't always work, but it beat starting from scratch. And yes, historians still argue whether Stone Age people had structured bedtimes, or simply followed natural light rhythms. What's clear is that however they slept, it wasn't comfortable, and it definitely wasn't cozy. So as you sit there, your hands filthy and blistered from coaxing the fire back to life, your reward is modest. A few licks of warmth on your knees, and maybe the chance to start boiling stale water. That's a whole new ordeal. Your fingers are still aching from that fire-starting fiasco, but now your stomach wants in on the misery too. It growls loud enough to startle a nearby bird, and the sound almost makes you laugh if laughing didn't take energy you can't afford to spend. Welcome to Stone Age breakfast, where the menu is whatever you can find, and the portion size is hopefully not poisonous. You glance at the others. A few tribe members have already wandered off to forage. One carries a digging stick, worn smooth from years of poking into stubborn soil. Another has a woven pouch swinging from their side, hopefully for roots or berries, and not today's mystery beetle collection. You've been volunteered to find something edible. Again, let's be clear. There's no kitchen, no stockpile of granola bars, and definitely no delivery apps. Your morning forage means scanning every leaf, inspecting every root, and second-guessing every colorful berry that might look tasty but might also melt your insides. Historians still argue whether Stone Age diets leaned more heavily on meat or plant matter, but what we do know is that every bite was a gamble. You didn't just get food, you earned it, one dirt-covered tuber at a time. You dig into the earth with a stick, prying loose a root that's more fibrous than anything you'd willingly chew. It looks like someone tried to grow a stick and failed. Still, it's foodish kind of. You brush the dirt off, take a bite, and instantly regret it. It's bitter, it's stringy, and it tastes like someone dared a potato to become horrible. But you chew, and chew, because you have to. You think about fruit for a second, berries. Maybe bud even, that's risky. Bright colors often mean danger. Some early humans figured this out the hard way, often after one experimental mouthful too many. In fact, here's your quirky tidbit. Some tribes used to watch what birds or squirrels ate, assuming it was safe for them too. Spoiler, it wasn't always. You take another bite of root. It doesn't get better. You remember the red-spotted mushroom someone found last season? The one that made your cousin think his shadow was chasing him. No one's touched mushrooms since, and yet, weirdly, people still survive. They even discovered flavor charcoal, smoke, ash, and fermented goat's milk could all be considered seasonings. You once saw someone rub crushed bugs on meat for spice. You haven't eaten meat since... Meat, of course, is a whole other issue. If you want it, you have to hunt it or scavenge what the wolves leave behind. And unless you're fast, clever, or suicidal with a spear, you're better off chewing bark. And forget utensils. You want to mash something? Find a rock. Want to scoop water? Use your hands? Want to cook? Pray the fire doesn't go out. There are no pots, no pans, just embers, sticks, and burnt fingers. There's a guy in your tribe, let's call him Ogre, who claims he can taste the wind and tell where the best roots grow. You think he's full of mammoth dung, but you follow him anyway because he doesn't look hungry. He stops at a patch of weeds and gestures like he's summoning treasure. You dig. It's slightly less disgusting than the first root. Progress. Here's a fun mainstream fact. Archaeologists have found grinding stones with residue from wild grains, dating back over 30,000 years. That means somebody figured out how to make proto-flour way before agriculture even existed. Were they making bread? Not quite. More like burnt oat paste on hot rocks. Still, it's impressive. And chewy, you head back to the camp with your modest harvest. Someone else brings a handful of snails. You try not to look disappointed. The tribe crowds the fire and everyone tosses in their contributions. It's like a very depressing potluck. You watch as someone sticks a root on a twig and holds it over the fire. It chars, curls, and eventually stops smelling like feet. That's your cue. You do the same. Cooking makes it slightly more edible, or at least less like chewing rope soaked in sadness. You bite into your fire roasted prize. Not in a good way. There's a moment of silence around the fire. Not reverence, just chewing. Lots and lots of chewing. Someone coughs. Someone else spits something out discreetly. You catch a whiff of burnt snail and try not to retch. You think of your modern pantry bread, jam, maybe a smoothie, and feel a deep, aching sense of loss. Then again, Caveman smoothies would just be a handful of berries and creek water stirred with a stick. You try not to think about that stick. Your hunger fades, not because you're full, but because your jaw hurts, and you've lost the will to continue. That's enough breakfast for one day. Just then, a tribe elder speaks a few guttural sounds and hand gestures. Translation: the foraging spot is drying up, and the hunting group hasn't come back. That could mean bad news, or just a detour, or if you're really lucky, a fresh carcass left behind by predators. Either way, you have to pack up. You don't own much. Nobody does. A fur, a stick, maybe a sharpened stone. You tie your roots into a bundle with sinew and sling it over your shoulder. It's heavy. It's awful, but it's food. One last look at the fire. One last glance at the patch of burned snail shells and root peels. And then you're walking, feet sore, belly vaguely full, brain already dreading what comes next. Still think you'd survive a whole day. Your feet already hurt, and you haven't even walked more than a few hundred steps. The Stone Age does that to you. There are no shoes at least not the comfy kind you're used to. What you've got is a slab of animal hide barely stitched together with sinew, tied around your feet with strings that dig into your ankles. And they're already soaked from the morning frost. Every squish feels like betrayal. You trudge through uneven ground, dodging roots and slipping on wet stones. There are no trails, just paths made by repeated suffering, worn lines through undergrowth where other feet have walked, limped, or collapsed. It's all guesswork. Someone at the front points to a direction and you follow, trusting that they either know where food is or remember where the predators aren't. Historians still argue whether Stone Age people were more nomadic or semi-settled during different periods. But in practice, for you, that debate doesn't matter. You move when someone says move. And if you don't, you risk being left behind. Or you pass through a stretch of brambles that tear at your clothes, or what's left of them. Your outfit is a patchwork of hide and fur, stitched clumsily together. It's stiff when it's cold, heavy when it's wet, and always smells faintly like something died with. To be fair, it did. And here's the fun part. It's probably crawling with lice. That itch on your neck, not your imagination. That squirmy feeling around your waistband. Definitely something alive. You're not alone in your outfit. Want a quirky tidbit? In some ancient cultures, people used fine-toothed bone combs to scrape lice out of their hair. That's right, prehistoric personal grooming tools. Primitive, sure, but better than letting insects colonize your scalp. You feel something move along your collarbone and try not to scream. Dignity isn't a currency that exists here. Survival is. Someone shouts ahead. The group pauses. There's movement in the trees. Everyone crouches instinctively. Even the children. You hold your breath. Could be prey. Could be predator. Could be nothing. You pray for nothing. A deer bolts through the underbrush, spooked, but not close enough to hunt. Everyone exhales, disappointed but relieved. At least, it wasn't a bear. That brings you to the most unsettling realization of the day. You are never the apex predator. Not out here. Out here, you're just an option. Something on the menu. You're surrounded by creatures with teeth longer than your fingers, better senses, and far fewer existential crises. Wolves travel in packs. Big cats prowl silently. Even snakes, with no legs and no facial expressions, are a legitimate danger. And don't forget humans. Other humans. Tribes that don't know you. Tribes that might see you as competition or lunch. A few years ago, well, probably more than that. But time's fuzzy. There was a neighboring group that came too close. Someone vanished. Nobody talks about it, but you've seen the warning piles of bones by the river trail. No one accidentally stacks femurs like that. So, yeah. You walk fast. You watch you'll keep your sharpened stick close, even if you're pretty sure it would snap in half if you actually tried to use it. You reach a clearing where the group pauses to rest. The sun's higher now, and the cold has shifted to a clammy, sticky sort of warmth. Your fur layers are suddenly too hot, but taking them off would just expose more skin to bugs and sunburn. You suffer silently. Here's a historical fact to distract you. Stone Age people were surprisingly resourceful with clothing. Evidence from sites like Sayou, the Icemans find in the Alps, shows multi-layered outfits made from different animal hides, carefully stitched for mobility and warmth. Functional fashion, just with a lot more blood. Someone pulls out a bundle of grass and starts weaving, not out of boredom, out of necessity. A makeshift bag for the next foraging run. Every spare moment is used to make something, repair something, or plan for the next disaster. You try to sit, but the ground is damp and the bugs are aggressive. So you squat, like everyone else, balancing your weight on tired legs. It's oddly peaceful. Birds chirp. Wind rustles through tall grass. You could almost pretend it's relaxing until you hear the distant, guttural roar of something too big to ignore. Your heart rate spikes. No one moves for a moment. Then, someone gestures back on your feet, back on the path. You start walking again, a little faster this time. You wonder, briefly, what Stone Age people did for fun. Because right now, fun feels like an extinct concept. But that's not entirely true. There are laughs around the fire, mock hunts with kids throwing pebbles at each other, simple songs with sticks tapping rhythmically on bones or rocks. It's not entertainment in the modern sense, but it's something. A reminder that even when survival is the main course, humans still find a way to season it with meaning. You remember last night when someone mimed a story about falling into a river and losing their trousers. Everyone howled with laughter. You're still not sure what trousers are, but apparently they were hilarious. Even now, someone behind you is humming a tune, just a few repeating notes. A lullaby, maybe, or a memory. You don't know the words, but you follow along in your head. It's oddly comforting, like a thread of warmth tying you all together as you march through this green, wild nothing. Still, the sun's climbing, the bugs are bolder, and your feet are starting to blip. You pause to retire hide sandals. Wonder how anyone got anywhere before roads, wheels, or orthopedic inserts. And as you stand up, you catch your reflection in a puddle. You're filthy, hair tangled, face smeared with dirt, eyes tired. You barely recognize yourself, but you're still moving. Still part of the tribe. Still alive. For now, you're still walking, or more like limping now, because every step feels like you're dragging bricks tied to your calves. The terrain hasn't improved. You've stepped on sharp rocks, slippery mud, and one suspiciously soft pile of something. There's no pause button, no break room, just the steady rhythm of grunts. Eventually, the tribe stops again, this time near a creek. It's shallow, lined with smooth stones, and blessedly drinkable at least, you hope it is. One of the elders gestures at the water and nods. That's the signal. You drop your pack and kneel at the bank, cupping your hands and drinking like a desperate raccoon. The water's cold and tastes like leaves. You're not sure if that's normal or a sign of something dangerous swimming upstream, but you drink anyway. Thirst is thirst. Someone else wades in and splashes water on their face. It looks refreshing. You try it. Mistake. The splash hits your dirt-crusted cheek like a slap. Now you're wet and grimy. Still, it's better than dry mouth misery. One thing you start to realize out here. Water is never clean. It's just clean enough. You've probably swallowed a few microbes that would make a modern doctor faint. But in the Stone Age, you either build a strong gut or die trying. Historians still argue whether ancient humans had higher immunity, died more often. Either way, you sip with caution. Nearby, someone's checking their foot. You glance over. It's cut probably from a sharp rock. No big deal. Right. Except here, even a tiny wound can spiral into disaster. There are no antibiotics, no band-aids, just spit, dirt, and prayer. You've seen it before. A scrape becomes a swollen mess. Fever follows. People weaken, collapse, and then nothing. The fire is lit low that night. The tribe moves on, one fewer bundle to carry. And it's not just injuries. Illness floats around like invisible arrows. A cough could be the start of a death spiral. A rash might mean a parasite. That odd smell from your armpit could be rot, could be normal, could be your last week alive. Here's your mainstream historical fact. Archaeological studies of ancient skeletons show signs of infections, broken bones that never healed, right? And even amputations performed without metal tools. Imagine someone sawing off your leg with a flint blade while two others hold you down. That's your emergency room now. Your quirky fact. Some early humans believed certain rocks had healing powers. They'd place quartz or obsidian near wounds to draw out sickness. It probably didn't help, but it looked cool, and belief was often half the battle. Someone hands you a strip of animal hide soaked in bitter-smelling plant paste. You recognize it. Wild garlic and pine sap. It's the go-to for disinfecting cuts. You don't have a wound yet, but you accept it. Because by sunset, you probably will. And if you do get hurt, guess what? Resting isn't really an option. The tribe won't stop moving just because you've got a twisted ankle or infected toe. You either limp along or risk being carried if someone's feeling generous. If not, you get a stick to lean on and a lot of tough love. You think about how in your normal life, A paper cut means complaining for hours. Here, it would mean learning how to hold things differently. Forever. Suddenly, there's a commotion. Someone shouts from the tree line. The rest of the group freezes. You grip your stick tight. Everyone listens. Another shout, this one from another direction, and then they appear. The hunting party. You exhale. They're alive, but they're not smiling. That's a bad sign. One of them is limping, and another is carrying something wrapped in bloody fur. You hope it's a deer. Spoiler, it's not. They laid the bundle down. It's a young man, one of the newer ones. He's still breathing, but barely. Gashes line his torso. A boar, maybe, or something worse. They say he surprised it, and it charged. No time to dodge. Someone presses moss into the wounds while another chews a root and spits the pulp onto the cuts. That's medicine now. Herbal guesswork and lots of saliva. You step back, not out of disrespect, but because you're afraid. Afraid of the smell. Afraid of how fast death comes here. One moment, you're hungry. The next, you're meat. They don't cry. No time. No room. They just treat him, tighten his bindings, and wait. He'll either survive or he won't. If he dies, there's no ceremony. Maybe a few words, maybe a song, and then he becomes a story if he's lucky. That's the Stone Age hospital. Dirt, spit, and hope. You remember that dream you had once, clean sheets. A beeping machine. Soft voices saying, you're going to be okay. That version of safety doesn't exist here. What you have instead are people doing their best with nothing but memory, instinct, and whatever hasn't been eaten by animals yet. And yet, despite the chaos, there's a strange rhythm. People move. They act. They react. There's no panic, just efficiency. Everyone has seen this before. Everyone knows the drill. Even the children stay back, watching with wide, quiet eyes. No one shields them. This is their world. 2. You step away, back toward the creek. Wash your hands. Splash your face again. This time the water feels colder, sharper, more real. You've barely survived the morning. Still think you'd last a full day. The silence after an injury is a strange thing in the Stone Age. No sirens, no rushing footsteps down a hospital hallway, just the wind through grass, a few birds stubbornly singing, and the wet breathing of a young man who might not see tomorrow's sunrise. You glanced back at the makeshift patient, swaddled in fur and herbs, and silently promise yourself to stay out of the hunting party if you live long enough to even get recruited. But there's no time to process it. Someone claps a hand on your shoulder and jerks a thumb upstream. That's the next task. Clean water is fine, but you need more than water today. You need lunch, which means foraging again, this time with more urgency. You head out in a small group. For others, and you, armed with digging sticks, gut sacks made from hollowed animal stomachs, and a shared determination not to return empty. This sky has turned from gray to pale blue, but you'd know better than to trust it. Rain could come in 10 minutes, and if it does, everything becomes harder. The forest closes in fast. No trail markers. No you are here. Signs juiced. Instinct and memory. You keep one eye on the ground, scanning for roots and mushrooms, and one on the canopy above, watching for nests, fruit, or anything edible that hasn't been claimed by birds. You wish you had a book, a guide to what's safe and what's not. But reading hasn't been invented yet, and books won't appear for a few millennia. All you've got is tribal memory, stories passed down, warnings whispered, and the occasional reminder from skunks. One of your group finds something, a patch of green with white bulbs poking from the soil. You recognize them. Strong, sharp, and actually edible. You'd start digging alongside them, the pungent smell stinging your eyes. It's not much, but it's better than more bark. Here's your mainstream fact for the day. Evidence from prehistoric sites shows that humans in the Upper Paleolithic era had a surprisingly diverse diet. Seeds, nuts, fruit, wild grains, even seaweed in coastal regions. They weren't just carnivores. With clubs, they were flexible, opportunistic eaters. And when food was scarce, they got creative. But creativity has its risks. You spot a red berry bush, and your stomach lights up with hope. You reach out, hand hovering, and then someone barks a warning. Too late, your fingers brush one. The look you get from the others is pure horror. You pull your hand back like you've touched fire. One of them kneels, points at the leaves, and mimes vomiting. You nod fast. Message received. Here's your quirky tidbit. Some tribes used animals as taste testers. If a monkey ate something and lived, it might be safe. If the monkey dropped dead, Well, that was a very short experiment. You, unfortunately, don't have a monkey. You stick to what you know. Tubers, wild garlic, the occasional handful of sour berries someone swears are fine if you chew them slowly. You try it. They taste like regret, but they don't kill you. So, when the forest gets darker the deeper you go, the air turns humid, and the buzzing of insects grows louder. You're sweating now. Your fur tunic clings to you like a wet dog. The digging stick feels heavier with each step. You reach a small grove where someone spots animal droppings fresh. Not predator, thankfully. Probably boar. That's good news. Where there's fresh scat, there might be mushrooms, and not the death kind. You fan out, eyes scanning the mossy ground. When someone gives a soft call, they've found a cluster. Pale caps, fat stems, hiding in the shade of a fallen log. You recognize the type. Edible, probably. At least the last guy who ate one didn't die. He just stared at the sky for a day and tried to marry a stick. Still, protein is protein. You help gather them carefully. Using a sharpened flake of stone to slice the stems, you wrap them in a folded hide and tie it shut. With a little fire and a lot of hope, they'll make a decent stew. Just as you start to stand, you hear it a crack. Not a twig. Something heavier. The sound of a branch snapping under intentional weight. You freeze. Everyone freezes. Eyes scan the trees. You grip your digging stick like a sword, which is laughable. If it's a predator, you'll be nothing but a mildly annoying chew toy. But the sound fades. Then silence again. Historians still debate whether early humans had designated lookouts during foraging trips. But today, you feel the evolutionary need for one in your bones. Being watched is a real possibility by something hungry or by someone deciding whether you're worth the risk. You return to camp a little faster than you left it. Your sack is heavier now, bulging with mushrooms and onion bulbs. The others carry similar loads. One found some wild greens. Someone else brought back eggs from a bird's nest, which is either very clever or a future feud with an angry goose. Back at the camp, the injured hunter is still alive, but only just he's unconscious. Someone fans him with a leaf. The others whisper. They're already preparing for the worst. You drop your finds near the fire pit and join the others in silence. There's no real cooking pot. Instead, someone hollows out a large stone and fills it with water. Hot rocks are pulled from the fire and dropped in, making the water hiss and steam. Bit by bit, the food goes in roots, mushrooms, herbs. It's primitive soup, but it smells like hope. You sit close to the fire now, watching it boil. You've been walking, gathering, and worrying since sunrise. Your body is tired. Your brain is foggy. Your fingers twitched with small spasms you can't control. You've made it through half a day, and the worst part, you're still not safe. You sit by the fire, knees pulled to your chest, watching the soup bubble in the carved-out stone trough. The smell is oddly comforting, smoky, earthy, maybe even a little oniony if you squint your nose. But you don't dare get too excited. Anything can happen between now and mealtime, and odds are something will. The injured hunter groans. A shallow breath escapes him, and someone mutters a quiet sound that might be a prayer or a farewell. You're not sure which yet. Everyone else pretends not to notice. That's the rule here. Acknowledge death only once it's done. You think back to your soft life, the one that feels like it belongs to a completely different version of you. You used to skip lunch because the line was too long. Here, you'd sell your soul for a boiled bird egg. You lean over and try to sniff the stew. A bit of hot air smacks your eyebrows. You sit back and wait. Someone stirs the mics with a bone, scooping up bits and checking for ash, or the occasional bug that didn't get invited. One of the elders tastes it, grimaces, adds a pinch of crushed leaves, and stirs again. No one complains. Complaining is a luxury for people who aren't starving. Here's your mainstream historical fact of the day. Prehistoric cooking often involved hot stone boiling. Stones heated in fire were dropped into water, held in bark bowls, leather pouches, or dug-out pits. This wasn't just clever, it was revolutionary. Boiling made food safer, softened roots, and even helped extract nutrients. And while we're at it, here's your quirky tidbit. Some early humans added clay to soup on purpose. Not for flavor, but to neutralize toxins. Dirt as seasoning. Born. Your bowl is a hollowed gourd rough, blackened, chipped at the rim. You get your scoop of stew, thick with roots and chunks of mushroom. You hesitate. This could go two ways. Nourish you, change you. Hallucinogenic fungi were a common misstep in early diets, and there are no refunds in prehistoric cuisine. You blow on it, sip slowly, It's hot, burns your tongue a little, but it tastes okay. Better than this morning's bulk bite breakfast. You sip again. The warmth spreads down your throat, settling like a small fire in your belly. You try to eat slowly. Everyone does. Not from manners, those don't exist yet, but because you're all trying to trick your bodies into thinking you're full. The slower you eat, the longer the illusion lasts. Someone finishes first and licks their bowl clean. Then the second round starts boiling more water, adding the leftovers. Nothing goes to waste. Not even the stems. Not even the burnt bits scraped from the stone. But the meal doesn't last. It never does. Within minutes, you're scraping the bottom of your gourd, tongue pressing to the side like a desperate animal. And when you finally finish, there's a moment of silence. Not satisfaction. Not fullness. Just silence. You've staved off hunger for another few hours. That's a win. Then it's back to work. Because here's the kicker. There's no after lunch break. No naps. No coffee chats. Just next. Tasks. You've eaten. Now, you owe the tribe your effort. Some of the stronger members head out to check the nearby traps. You're assigned to help gather wood. Fire doesn't fuel itself, and the night will be colder than this morning. You sigh, stand, and walk toward the tree line again. Wood gathering sounds easy until you remember that nothing in the Stone Age is easy. First, you need to find dry branches. Wet ones just hiss and spit in the fire. Then you have to carry them back in awkward bundles that scrape your arms and shed bark down your neck. If you're lucky, the bundle only weighs 20 pounds. If not, it drags behind you like a clingy bad decision. As you work, the sky darkens slightly, not from sunset yet, but from clouds. Big, puffy, ominous ones. You could smell the rain coming, and your stomach drops. Rain means cold. Rain means wet fur. Rain means the fire might go out. You pick up your pace, tossing a few thicker branches onto your pile. Your back is screaming, and your shoulders ache, but you keep going. Here's something wild. Historians still argue over the average daily workload of prehistoric people. Some studies suggest they only worked 4 to 6 hours per day, but that definition of work excludes things like foraging, cooking, cleaning, hides, maintaining tools, or running from wolves. So yeah, take that hunter-gatherer had more free time theory with a very salty prehistoric pinch. You return to camp just as the first drops fall. Someone throws a hide over the fire and stakes down the corner's makeshift shelter to keep the flames alive. The rest of you scramble to pile stones around the base, preventing runoff from flooding it out. It works, sort of. The flames hiss and dim, but don't die. The fire flickers like a heartbeat under a soggy top. You crouch near it, soaked, shivering, holding your knees, and wondering what you did in a past life to deserve this one. Then comes the lightning. A flash splits the sky and the thunder follows almost instantly. Everyone freezes for a second, wide-eyed like children caught misbehaving. Storms are no joke. Lightning strikes have wiped out entire camps before. The fire becomes a shrine. Now your one hope of warmth, cooking, and protection. The rain comes harder, slicing sideways through the trees. You pull your furs tighter, but they're already soaked. They cling to your skin like wet towels made of sadness. You try to scoop closer to the fire, but someone elbows you back. Space is limited. Heat is currency. You sit and endure. And here's your final reality check for the day. There are no shelters unless you build one. Caves are rare, and even when you find one, they might already be occupied by bears, leopards, or other tribes. Most nights, you sleep under lean-tos, made of sticks and animal hide, which sag in rain and collapse in wind. So you sit and endure, because that's what Stone Age life is. Endurance, not comfort, not convenience. Just raw, wet, aching existence. Still think you'd last a day. The storm doesn't ask for permission. It just takes over. The rain hammers down, soaking everything. Your firewood pile, even the ground beneath you, water pools where you sit. And within minutes, you're essentially marinating in a muddy stew of your own discomfort. There's no escape. No umbrellas. No plastic tops. The best you can do is hunch forward, wrap your arms around your knees, and hope the worst of the water doesn't find its way into your ears. The fire, your lifeline, is struggling. The hide draped above it droops under the weight of the downpour, and each gust of wind threatens to snuff the flame. A few people shield it with their bodies, forming a damp, smoky wall of desperation. You're too cold and too miserable to offer help. You feel guilty, but you stay seated, You wonder how people did this every day, and the answer hits you like a raindrop down the back of your neck. They didn't have a choice. Here's your mainstream historical fact. Archaeologists believe that during colder, wetter Ice Age periods, many early humans migrated with the seasons. They followed animal herds and avoided weather extremes when they could. But for those who couldn't, rain like this wasn't just an inconvenience that could wipe out an entire community. The wind howls again, and a large gust blows through the trees, shaking leaves loose and nearly flipping the hide top inside out. You scramble to grab one of the corner stakes, pressing it down with your foot, while another person reinforces it with rocks. Everything smells like smoke, wet leather, and panic. This, you think, is the kind of moment no museum diorama ever truly captures. No mannequin in a recreated cave scene is ever soaking wet and shivering in a puddle while trying not to cry. But this is the Stone Age in all its glory. The injured hunter, somehow, is still alive. Barely. His fur wrappings are soaked, and someone is trying to heat stones in the fire to tuck against his body. You're amazed. If you can survive this, maybe you can, too. Or maybe you're just too numb to collapse. A child sneezes loudly nearby. You glance over, and your heart tightens a little. Small, barefoot, hair plastered to their head. No coat, no towel, no medicine. Just survival. And yet, the kid's building a miniature fire pit out of pebbles, arranging twigs with tiny, freezing fingers. You look away, ashamed of the complaint building in your throat. The rain starts to lighten after what feels like an hour, but could be 20 minutes. Time doesn't pass in a straight line when you're soaked and cold. It just drips and eventually, the drops slow to a mist, and the wind dies down to a soggy whisper. People exhale. Not relief, just a little less dread. Now comes the next task. Drying everything before the sun sets and the cold returns with vengeance. You lay your cloak near the fire. The heat is weak, but it helps. You spread your arms, trying to warm the fabric against your chest. You steam a little, like a sad, prehistoric duck. Here's your quirky tidbit. Some tribes used to strip naked after storms and huddle together. You either got over it or froze. Today, you're considered joining a pie like that, and as the sky clears into a muted gold, someone starts preparing dinner. It looks a lot like lunch. Boiled mushrooms, roots, and maybe, if the hunting party got lucky, a strip or two of meat. Everyone crowds closer to the fire now. Smoke mixes with damp fur and scorched grass. The scent is equal parts revolting and weirdly comforting. You look around and realize no one here is thriving. Not really. Even the strongest among you looks worn. Faces are lined, hands are cracked, eyes flicker with fatigue. But they're doing it. Getting through the day. Getting each other through it. And you're still here. You finally eat. It's hot, mushy, bitter, and exactly what you need. You let the warmth soak through your belly as the last of the mist rizzes off the ground. Historians still debate whether prehistoric humans experienced what we now call community bonding. But here, huddled in the smoke, with wet clothes and full bellies and tired eyes, you'd say they absolutely did. Not through stories yet, but through shared suffering and shared survival. Someone passes you a warmed stone. You hold it close. It's smooth, radiating heat into your palms. It's the best thing that's happened to you all day. You blink slowly, watching the firelight flicker on the faces around you. There's laughter, now quiet and hoarse. Someone mimes slipping in the mud and landing in something unmentionable. The others chuckle, and then it hits you. You've survived a full half day in the Stone Age. You're dirty, exhausted, blistered, bruised, soaked, and half frozen. But you're still alive. And that's something. Still think you'd survive a full day. We're not done yet. The sky turns amber, then bruises into violet. Sunset in the Stone Age doesn't just mean pretty. Colorset means a shift in the rules of survival. You're not winding down for a cozy evening. You're bracing. For cold. For darkness. For whatever is out there, sharpening claws or licking its chops. There's no artificial light, no porch lamps. When the sun goes down, the dark gets real. And if you haven't prepared by now, gathered wood, dried your furs, eaten your filia, about to have a very long, very risky night. The tribe starts to move in sync again. Blankets are shaken out. Stones are warmed. Skins are stretched taut over the shelter poles to block wind. Everyone knows their part. Even the children help, stacking sticks, fetching leaves, curling into tight bundles like kittens. You drag your feet toward the fire, newly fed but not quite content. You've eaten enough to stay upright, but not enough to forget your blisters. or your sore shoulders, or the fact that your tunic still squelches when you shift. Someone pats the ground beside them. You take the hint and sit, legs crossed. They offer you a scrap of hide to cover your shoulders. You don't ask where it's been. You're just grateful. And then one of the elders starts to hum, low and slow, like the wind through tall grass. A second voice joins in. Then a third. No words, just sound. Not quite melody, not quite chant, but it does something to your chest. Loosens it, softens you a little. This is the Stone Age version of Netflix. Your nighttime entertainment is a lullaby you don't understand but somehow feel in your bones. Here's your mainstream historical fact. Many anthropologists believe that humans likely used vocalization, chanting, humming, rhythm to build social bonds and soothe anxiety at night. Not quite music as we know it, but something primal, something human. Your quirky tidbit. Some ancient tribes used hollowed logs filled with pebbles as nighttime rattles, not for dancing, but to mimic predator noises and scare other predators away. Reverse psychology. The fire cracks, sparks spit upward, briefly lighting the circle of faces. You catch glimpses, cheeks smeared with ash, eyes half closed, a baby tucked against a mother's chest. Everyone looks exhausted. Everyone looks the same. You blink and realize nobody here is thinking about tomorrow's schedule. There is no tomorrow in the calendar sense. There's only later. There's only next. And next could be anything: a quiet sleep, a thunderstorm, or a pack of wolves. Someone adds another log to the fire. The flames roar up, casting shadows that jitter and dance against the stone wall nearby. One shadow looks like a deer, another like a person running, another, for a moment, looks like something with too many legs. You scoot closer to the fire, and then the real magic begins. The elder clears his throat, pokes the embers with a charred stick, and begins a story. It's not in your language because language, as you know it, doesn't exist yet. But you understand enough. Hand gestures, grunts, facial expressions, the rhythm of repetition. He tells of a great hunt, of a man who chased a mammoth across rivers and mountains, armed only with courage and a very sharp rock. He tells of how the man was thrown, trampled, and left for dead, only to return days later, riding the mammoth like a hairy god. The kids gasp. The adults smile. You know it's nonsense. They all do. But that's not the point. The point is togetherness. Stories like these carry more than entertainment. They carry identity, memory, warning, hope. Historians still argue whether these narratives were based on real events or pure imagination. But in a world without writing, a good story could live longer than a person, longer than a generation. A story could be immortal. You listen with your chin on your knees, watching the elder's face lit from below like a campfire demon. His eyes sparkle with mischief. His hands paint pictures in the smoke. Someone laughs too loud. A baby squeals. A teenager throws a pebble. Everyone relaxes just for a moment, and then a distant howl pierces the stillness. It's far, maybe too far to matter, but the energy changes. The elder stops mid-sentence. Everyone listens. Breath held, bodies tense. Then, silence. That kind of silence that makes your skin crawl, like the world has inhaled and forgotten how to exhale. Eventually, someone near the edge of the camp stands and shifts their spear to the other hand. Watch duty begins. Just like that, the story is over. You lie down on your fur mat, stiff and still damp. You pull another pelt over your legs and curl up tight, facing the fire. You don't care about smoke. You don't care that ash is now in your eyelashes. You care that the fire is warm, and the fire means life. There's no pillow, just your arm. There's no alarm clock, just the sunrise if you live to see it. As your eyes grow heavy, you remember the story of the mammoth. You picture him flying through the snow, cape made of bare skin, yelling triumphantly as the tribe cheers. It's nonsense, but it helps. And for the first time today, you almost smile. Still think you'd survive a whole day. We've got a long night ahead. You drift in and out of sleep, not the cozy, dream-filled kind that comes with soft blankets and ambient playlists. This is a twitchy, paranoid, half-conscious dozing, where every crackle of the fire or snap of a twig could mean death or worse. A cold breeze to your kidneys. The ground beneath you is unforgiving. Your hip bone presses into stone. Your back is wet. Something scurries past your ear at 1.2 fast to see. Too real to ignore. You don't scream. There's no room for screaming in the Stone Age. You just tuck your furs tighter and keep your eyes shut, hoping the fire holds out. and the night doesn't get any colder. But of course, it does. As the hours creep on, the temperature, you feel it in your toes, first numb, then burning, then numb again. You try curling tighter, but that only shifts the cold to your knees. Someone nearby shifts position, yanks the fur tighter, and mutters in their sleep. You envy their ability to sleep deeply. Eventually, you give up. You sit up, rubbing your hands together, eyes barely open. The fire is Zimba's, now still alive, but fading. The watcher pokes at it with a stick, adding thin branches one by one. He glances at you but doesn't speak. No one really talks at night. The quiet is sacred, or survival. You move closer to the fire and hold your hands above it. The skin on your palms tingles, then stings. Warmth and pain blur together in prehistoric equilibrium. Here's your mainstream historical fact. Analysis of campfire remnants at ancient sites shows repeated nighttime fire maintenance evidence that people took shifts to keep flames alive while others slept. This wasn't just convenience, it was the thin line between life and death. And your quirky fact for the night. Some early human groups buried heated stones in shallow pits under their sleeping areas. Prehistoric underfloor heating. Genus if you had enough dry stones and didn't mind smelling vaguely of scorched earth, you scoot back onto your mat. Sleep tries to reclaim you. You drift again, this time with dreams that make no sense. Mammoths, firelight, laughter, and screaming that turns into thunder. You wake with your heart pounding, and no memory of why. The sky is still black. The fire still burns. Your bladder informs you that ignoring it will soon be a mistake. And here it is, your most dreaded task of the night. Getting up to pee. There's no toilet, no outhouse, no privacy. Just darkness, mud, and the looming possibility of stepping on something venomous, or stepping too far, and never coming back. You shuffle a few steps from camp, keeping one eye on the fire's glow and the other on the shadows that move when they shouldn't. You do your business quickly, glancing over your shoulder the entire time. Your breath clouds in the cold. You hope no one sees you. You hope nothing sees you. Returning feels like a quest. Each step is a negotiation between your aching feet and your bone-deep exhaustion. When you finally drop onto your fur again, it feels like re-entering a nightmare where the only reward is another few minutes of twitchy half-sleep. Still, you rest a little, until a sound breaks the silence. Not thunder, not a bird, a crack. Low, heavy, closer than it should be. The fire watcher stiffens. Everyone else stirs instinctively like animals sensing a shift in wind or pressure. There's no alarm system, no sentry horn, just the fire dimming and eyes blinking awake in unison. Another crack, a low growl, then a hiss. Predator, you don't know what kind. You never get a good look. Maybe a lone wolf, maybe a big cat, maybe something else that's been sniffing at your scent trail for hours, waiting for night. Someone lifts a torch from the fire, waving it toward the trees. The flame flares, casting wild shadows. You see movement fast, then gone. There's no attack, just a warning. You've been sized up and passed over. Maybe you didn't look worth the trouble. Maybe the fire scared it. Maybe someone higher on the food chain is stalking the stalker. Either way, it's gone, for now, but no one sleeps after that. You sit upright for the rest of the night, rocking slightly, hugging your knees. You're not sure if your teeth are chattering from cold or fear. Here's something historians don't debate. Humans were prey for a long time. Before weapons, before shelters, before fences and flashlights. People spent nights hoping they weren't chosen by whatever lurked outside the circle of firelight. That's what you feel now. Vulnerable, small, breakable. And yet, when dawn finally arrives bleeding into the sky like a slow apology, are still here. The light grows, turning the black into gray, the gray into gold. The fire becomes less sacred, less necessary. The tribe stirs. Bones creak, joints pop, groans echo as people rise, stretch, and start their morning tasks, like nothing happened. But you remember, you felt the dark pressing in on your spine. You heard the low growl. You know how close death crept last night. Still think you'd survive a full day. Well, good news. You've got another one ahead. The morning sun filters through the canopy, casting long streaks of light across the clearing. Dew glistens on the grass. Birds chirp like nothing ever tried to kill you in the night. It's almost peaceful if you ignore your stiff joints, swollen feet, and the realization that you still smell like boiled mushrooms in fear. You stretch. Bad idea. Every muscle complains, like you've been hit by a mammoth and then trampled by its entire extended family. Your back cracks. Your knees snap. Your shoulders twitched with leftover tension from the night. But you're alive. So, that's something. The others are already moving. One is poking at the fire. Another checking on the injured hunter. He's still breathing. Barely. Two others walk off to inspect the trap lines. No one's talking much yet. The silence of the morning feels earned. You shuffle toward the water source. The creek is lower now, its surface glittering in the early light. You crouch and splash your face. The cold smacks you awake more than any cup of coffee ever did. You wash as best you can. No soap, no towel, just hands and grit and hope. Then, someone calls out from the trap trail. You all go still. Ears perk. Was it good news or bad? You can't tell. Turns out, it's neither. It's weird news. You follow the others through the underbrush, stepping over roots and ducking under branches. When you reach the trap, your stomach drops. There's an animal in it, caught in a snare of vines and sharpened stakes. But it's not a rabbit or a squirrel. It's a dog, or something like a dog. Lanky, wild-eyed, covered in patchy fur. Clearly not domesticated. And yet, not quite a threat either. It growls weakly but doesn't lunge. Its leg is injured, caught between two bent sticks. Blood pools in the leaves. You're all confused, because this creature isn't food. Not quite. It doesn't run. It doesn't bite. It just stares. Historians still argue whether early humans domesticated wolves or whether wolves domesticated themselves. The leading theory is that certain scavenging wolves began following human camps, eating scraps, and learning not to get speared. Over generations, they evolved into something else. Companions, helpers, dogs. You're looking at one of those in-between creatures now. Not yet friend, no longer enemy. Someone lifts a spear, but the elder gestures for them to stop. He kneels slowly, approaches the creature with quiet, cautious steps. It snarls once, but then stops. Breath shallow, eyes locked. And then, the elder does something odd. He talks to it, not in words. Exactly, just low sounds. Familiar, reassuring. And then he reaches into a pouch and pulls out a bit of yesterday's root mash. Smushed into a ball, he rolls it toward the creature. It sniffs, hesitates, then eats it. The spear is lowered. That's how it begins. You help untangle the snare. The animal limps away at first, half hopping, half limp, but then circles back. It doesn't trust you, but it stays. You could feel the unspoken contract forming. You feed me. I warn you when danger comes. We try not to eat each other. Back at camp, you return with the Nuzan, the animal. No one cheers, but you all feel it. Something's changed. The fire feels safer. The shadows feel a little less threatening. You have an unofficial sentry now. You get to work. The morning labor begins again. You help pound roots into paste, using a flat stone and another stone shaped like a fist. Your hands blister. Your wrists ache. But the mash will stretch the soup. Will feed more mouths. Will keep people upright a little longer. Here's your mainstream historical fact. Grinding stones known as been found at Stone Age sites, dating back over 20,000 years. These tools were used for processing seeds, grains, and nuts into something resembling porridge or paste. Labor-intensive, absolutely, but it changed how people fed themselves. Here's your quirky tidbit. Some ancient tribes flavored their food with ashnods just because it was there, but because they believed it balanced the spirits in the meal. Others added powdered bone for crunch. No comment. While you're mashing roots, you notice the strange dog thing again. It's lying near the fire, head on its paws, one eye open, watching, waiting. The injured hunter groans, and the creature perks up. Not afraid, just alert. That's when the idea hits you. This animal isn't just another beast. It's something else. A buffer, a warning system, a possible ally. The others notice too. You all work a little faster that day. Not just because you have more mouths to feed, but because the fire feels just a tiny bit warmer now. The sun climbs, the camp hums, people start to talk again. Someone tells a story, this one about a bear that stole a fur cloak and disappeared into the forest wearing it like royalty. The kids laugh. So do you. You scrape the last of the root mash into the pot and feel something close to pride. You made something. You didn't die. You didn't cry. You might still. Later, but not now. And when you sit down to eat, next to a weird almost dog in a pot of stew that smells like desperation and victory, you feel something else. Not joy, not comfort, but momentum. Still think you'd survive a full day. Because you're barely halfway through. By midday, The air shifts. The sun climbs high. The dew burns off, and the chill gives way to a suffocating stick. Your tunic, still damp from the storm and morning labor, clings like wet burlap. Every movement feels like dragging a sandbag across your own skin. You smell like effetan, so does everyone else. Hygiene in the Stone Age isn't a matter of daily routine. It's a battle of tolerance. Your fur tunic has absorbed sweat, smoke, and possibly a dead squirrel's ghost. Your hair is matted into something between a helmet and a bird nest. And forget about brushing your teeth. The best you get is a chew stick or some gritty bark that kind of smells minty if you pretend hard enough. You wander toward the creek again, hoping to rinse off. Others have the same idea. One woman scrubs her arms with a rough stone. A child splashes joyfully until someone yells about leeches. You step carefully. You dunk your hands, your face, then hesitantly your armpit. The cold bite of the water feels glorious, like one moment of rebellion against the crust forming on your skin. You wish for soap, for shampoo, for anything other than this swampy rinse cycle. Here's your mainstream historical fact. Archaeologists have found evidence that some prehistoric groups used clay, sand, or ash as cleaning agents. They'd scrub with it, rinse, and repeat. Not glamorous, but way ahead of their time. And your quirky tidbit, some early humans wore aromatic herbs in their hair, or tucked into their clothes not for beauty, but to mask the smell of rot, sweat, or open wounds. Primitive perfume. Not effective, but appreciated. You spot a small mirror of still water, and check your reflection. Bad idea. You look like a wild animal with taxes due. Dirt across your cheeks. A scratch on your jaw you don't remember getting. Eyes tired in a way that sleep can't fix. But you're still here. You hear laughter back at the camp, real laughter. Not the strange chuckles of misery, but something lighter. You rush back to see what's happening. Turns out someone made a flute. Well, flute is generous. It's a hollow bone with a few holes poked in it. But when blown, it makes sound warbly, whistling, sometimes accidental honking. Still, it's enough to trigger giggles from the kids and applause from the adults. It's a miracle, really. Music in the middle of mud and blood and mushrooms. The maker, a wiry man with a permanent squint, beams with pride. He plays a shaky tune while one of the teenagers tries to drum along with two sticks on an upturned gourd. Here's something to consider. Even in the roughest centuries of prehistory, humans still made art, still sang, still created instruments. Some of the oldest musical tools ever found, flutes made from bird bones dated back over 40,000 years. That's how deep the need for beauty goes. You sit near the music circle, finally able to stretch your legs without the looming fear of a wolf attack. Someone braids their hair, another patches a tear in their cloak. The dog-like creature lies in the sun, eyes half closed, tail flicking occasionally. Everyone's doing something quiet, focused, calmer. This isn't rest. Not exactly. It's maintenance. The kind that keeps bodies and minds from breaking. You're given a bone needle and a strip of hide. Your job is to reinforce your tunic's shoulder seam. Your fingers fumble. The sinew thread resists. The needle pricks your thumb more than once. But you manage a few crude stitches they'll hold. The woman next to you grunts in approval. You think, absurdly, about laundry. About how in your world, washing clothes is a chore. Here, it's a fantasy. You can't just toss a garment in a machine. If it stinks, you either wear it stink, or burn it, and hope someone has spare fur. Clothes in the Stone Age weren't about style. They were armor, and every scrap had value. You've seen fights break out over a scrap of dry hide. You've seen someone cry over a stolen pouch, not because of sentiment, because it meant survival. You lean back and look at the sky. Clouds drift slowly, birds fly overhead. For one long moment, the world feels still. You forget the cold, the dirt, the ache in your shoulders. You feel the sun warm your face and let your eyes close. Until someone screams. You're on your feet before you even think about it. The scream came from the tree line. High, sharp. A child. The camp explodes into motion. Spears are grabbed. Firebrands snatched. You join the flood of motion heading into the trees. You expect a predator. You get something stranger. A boy stands near a patch of disturbed ground, pointing, crying. He's not hurt, just terrified. You follow his gaze. Tracks. Big ones. Fresh. Whatever made them wasn't human. It wasn't prey, and it was close. Historians still debate what kinds of megafauna early humans lived alongside. Some say saber-tooths were rare. Others suggest certain regions had huge bears, massive cats, or even enormous hyenas. What you know now is this. Something big passed through and didn't care about being quiet. The elders arguing grunts and gestures. Stay or move. Risk confrontation or flee. In the end, caution wins. Camp is packed in record time. Bowls emptied. Furs bundled. The fire left to die. It hurts to abandon it, but if you stay, you might not need it tomorrow. You shoulder your bundle and fall in line as the tribe moves out, following a familiar escape route. Upstream, the dog thing trots at your side. Ears up, tail low. It's nervous. So are you. Still think you'd survive a full day. We're not even done with the afternoon. The tribe moves like a shadow through the tree's silent tents, always watching. No one speaks unless they have to. The younger children are carried or tugged along by older siblings, their wide eyes darting toward every rustle, every distant crack. You carry your bundle tightly against your chest, feeling each step in your joints and the hot ache climbing up your spine. The forest isn't kind to tired legs. Branches snap underfoot, thorny vines snag your tunic. Your feet sink into moss, slip on wet roots, and bang into hidden stones. You fall once, hard, and someone grabs your arm before you're left behind. You don't say thank you. No one does. Kindness here is action, not conversation. It's hard to explain what fear feels like in this world. It isn't sudden, it's constant. A slow dripping anxiety that coats your every thought. Because you're not just moving to be safe. You're moving because if you stop, you die. You glance behind you. The path you came from has already swallowed itself in green. Whatever made those giant tracks, it could be anywhere now. Here's your mainstream historical fact. Humans shared territory with plenty of terrifying megafauna giant ground sloths. Short-faced bears, twice the size of modern grizzlies, and massive cats with teeth longer than your fingers. These animals weren't stories. They were neighbors. And your quirky tidbit. Some tribes believed that animals had souls stronger than humans and could curse you simply by being disrespected. To cross a bear without asking forgiveness meant asking for death. After an hour of trekking, you reach a clearing near a low ridge. It's defensible too. Sides flanked by boulders, one by a shallow stream, and a single path of entry. It'll have to do. The group fans out quickly. The most experienced hunters begin setting fresh perimeter, trap slip snares, pitfall markings, and sharpened stakes disguised with leaves. Others begin assembling a new fire pit and lean-tos from fallen branches. Everyone has a job. You're handed 2 sticks and a roll of sinew. Your task: tie together a frame for a hide tent. Your fingers move automatically now, even if they're raw from yesterday. You don't think you just do, because pausing means losing time, and time is blood. Your stomach grumbles, but no one's cooking. No one dares. The air feels off, thick, watching. Even the dog thing isn't lying down. It paces near the tree line, nose up, body tense. You realized you've started mirroring its ears tuned, weight on the balls of your feet. One hand always near a tool or a weapon. If that's not instinct, it's close enough. You find a quiet moment, kneeling by the creek to drink. You sip slowly, then splash your face again. You're covered in sap, dirt, dried, sweat, and fear. You look up and see your reflection trembling in the ripples. You don't recognize this version of yourself. Not just the grime, the dark circled eyes, the cuts, but the way you're looking. Alert, animal. You blink and turn back to camp. Someone's fashioning a slingshot-like weapon, 2 cords tied to a stone, designed to whirl and crack through the air. Another person is sharpening a bone knife. A third lays out a small collection of dried roots and begins chewing one, slowly medicine or poison, depending on the dose. You take your place near the center of camp. The new fire pit has been started, but it's small. Just embers. No smoke, no light. Just enough heat to keep fingers flexible. One of the elders places small stones in a circle around it. You ask what they're for. He just looks at you and says, "Memory." You don't ask again. Here's something strange. Despite all this chaos, you feel something in your chest you haven't felt since arriving in this era of usefulness. You didn't die. You didn't freeze. You carried things, tied knots, watched the trees. You've adapted a little. The sun begins to drop again. You realize the day's ending. And despite everything, the storm, the wound, the growl in the dark, the massive tracks, you're still alive. And weirdly, you're not the only one. Everyone's here. The injured hunter is sleeping, but he's still breathing. The traps are set. The children are fed. You chew a piece of bark someone hands you. It tastes like old socks soaked in pine sap. You nod, thanks anyway. You glance again at the tree line. Still, but not safe. Historians still argue about whether humans survived prehistory due to intelligence or cooperation. What they agree on is this: alone, we would have perished. You feel that now. You would not have made it through this day by yourself. As dusk sets, the tribe tightens its circle again. The fire is fed a little more. The hides are pulled close. The air is thick with the smell of fear and fatigue, and you sit beside it all. Sore, dirty, starving, but surviving. Still think you'd last a full day. You've got 1 hour left. Let's see how it goes. The last hour of daylight feels like the final act of a very long play, one that started with freezing toes, involved nearly eating the wrong mushroom, and might end with something enormous stepping into your camp and deciding you'd make a decent snack. The sky turns that soft amber again, and shadows stretch longer than seems fair. The forest dims. Colors fade. Your eyes adjust fast. Now one more trick you've picked up over the last 20-something hours of trial by fire and mud. The tribe is quieter than usual, not because they're tired though. They are, but because of the uncertainty. Everyone saw the size of those tracks. Everyone felt the shift in the air. That kind of tension doesn't vanish just because the sun paints the treetops gold. Someone reinforces the trap line. Someone else sharpens stakes. Even the children are quiet, huddled together under furs that still haven't completely dried from yesterday's rain. You sit with your back to the rocks, near the fire pit, chewing the inside of your cheek, waiting. And then someone arrives from the woods with a small victory. A rabbit, skinned and limp, but not mangled. It's not a feast, but it's food. There's a low, collective exhale, not relief, just less dread. The rabbit is roasted quickly, split into tiny portions, shed out with silent precision. You get a piece no bigger than your thumb. It's smoky, dry, and slightly burnt on one side, but the protein hits different. Like your muscles, remember what it means to feel fed. Here's your mainstream historical facts. Even tiny kills were vital in the Stone Age. Larger game might be more impressive, but small animals, rabbits, birds, rodents were consistent. Archaeological sites often showed more rabbit bones than mammoth, despite what the museum dioramas would have you believe. And your quirky tidbit, some groups would sing thanks to their prey before eating, even if it was something as small as a mouse. Not religion, just ritual. A moment to say, I get to live today because you didn't. You chew your rabbit. You watch the fire. You scan the tree line. The dog thing is pacing again, head low, tail stiff. Its ears keep twitching in different directions. Someone else notices and quietly grabs a spear. No one speaks, but the message moves through the group like a cold breeze. Get ready. You slip your stone blade from its hide pouch and feel a tightness in your chest. You're not a fighter. You barely qualify as a helper. But you're here now, and here means you hold your place. You don't run unless they run. You don't panic unless someone tells you to. The woods are still. Too still. You hold your breath. And then movement. Not a charge. Not a leap. A shape. In the trees, too far to see clearly, but unmistakably large. The kind of large that makes branches bow. That moves differently than a deer. Slower, intentional, heavy. Every muscle in your body tenses. The fire crackles. Someone raises a torch. Another lifts a sling. You think you're ready? You're not. The shape vanishes. Not away. Not closer. Just gone. Like mist. The silence after is worse than the moment before. You wait. Everyone waits. Minutes pass. No one moves. The fire pops. A twig snaps under someone's shifting weight. And slowly, painfully, the group begins to breathe again. Maybe it was a false alarm. Maybe the creature changed course. Maybe it's still watching. But nothing comes. And so the tribe settles. You don't know what that means. No one says it. But the night begins anyway. You retreat to your matif, it can be called. That and pull the hide around your shoulders. You can't relax. Not really. But you try. Historians still argue whether fear of the dark in modern humans is a learned response or an ancient instinct. What's not debated is that something in us wakes up when the sun goes down. A leftover alarm bell from an age like this one, when nighttime meant exposure, danger, teeth in the dark. You feel that bell now. It's ringing somewhere deep behind your ribs. Even so, you're alive. You've lasted the cold morning, the bark breakfast, the storm. The march, the traps, the fire, the wound, the howl, the tracking. And now there's the final stretch before night reclaims the sky. You lie on your side, eyes open, watching the shapes flicker in firelight. The tribe curls around the flame like petals on a closing flower. You feel close to them, not because you know them, but because you know this feeling of exhaustion deeper than fatigue, this silent agreement to endure. Still think you'd survive a full day? Well, guess what? You just did. But tomorrow's coming, and the Stone Age doesn't do days off. Your eyes are closed, but you're not really sleeping, not the kind of sleep that heals or restores. It's more like lying very still and hoping nothing bites you before you drift off. You can feel the fire's heat just barely brushing your legs, the wet hide tucked around you like a soggy apology. Around you, the tribe has settled into its sleeping rhythm. Soft rustles, shifting the low breath of someone snoring through a congested nose. The doggy thing is curled near the fire, ears still twitching with every breeze. You're glad it's there even, if you're not sure if it's protecting you or just itself. The stars flicker above, barely visible through gaps in the canopy. They're not comforting. They don't shine like back home. They feel distant, cold, like the eyes of the ancestors watching to see if you're worth remembering. You drift in and out, losing track of time, until someone coughs. Not a small cough, a deep, wet one. From the injured hunter, you sit up. The elder is already there, leaning over the young man, pressing a hand to his chest. The firelight reveals a pale face slick with sweat. His breath is shallow. There's a rattle in his throat. The wound wasn't clean enough. Or maybe the cold got to it. Either way, it's happening. You watch, helpless, as the elder chews a bitter root and places the paste under the hunter's tongue. It's supposed to ease the pain, maybe delay the fever, but no one really believes it'll help. Not now. Here's your mainstream historical fact. In many excavated Stone Age graves, signs of trauma, broken bones, infections, even amputations show up often. Some people survived, many didn't. Prehistoric life had a brutal honesty about death. It didn't come with ceremony, it just came. Your quirky tidbit. Some early burial sites have been found with red ochre sprinkled over the dead, symbolic blood. Maybe a ritual, maybe a sign of respect, or maybe just an instinct that death should mean something. No one sings, no one weeps, they just wait. And you, in your hide blanket, heart pounding, realize something else. This is normal. People die like this all the time out here. Quietly, slowly, while others eat, sleep, or plan for the next hunt. Eventually, the hunter's breath slows, then stops. The elder places a hand on his forehead, then rises. Two others lift the body and carry it a short distance away from camp, toward the rocks. It's not a proper grave. There's no shovel, just a shallow dip in the ground where they'll cover him with stones. Keep the scavengers at bay. That's as much respect as anyone can afford. You feel sick. You want to say something. But what? He wasn't your friend. You didn't even know his name. But still, he was there yesterday. He laughed when someone tripped in the creek. He helped carry firewood. He lived. And now he doesn't. You lie back down, staring at the stars. And for the first time, you don't feel lucky to be alive. You feel borrowed. Like life is something you're renting, moment by moment, with no promise of extension. Historians still argue whether early humans understood death in abstract terms, simply recognized it as a physical end. But as you lie there, trying to quiet your breathing, you understand something very real. You are terrified of being next. But you get through the night. Somehow, when the sun finally creeps over the horizon, it doesn't feel like a new day. It feels like a verdict. Another round, another chance to survive or fail. The tribe stirs slowly. The fire's gone cold. The air is crisp again, and one fewer person rises to greet the morning. No one says it aloud, but everyone feels it. There's work to do. You move your limbs, they hurt. Your back is stiff. Your legs twitch from cold. But you stand, because you're alive. And the Stone Age doesn't care how you feel. Still think you'd survive this, because the second day's only just begun. There's no mourning period, no hour of silence, no symbolic sunrise to honor the one who died. The tribe simply begins again like the night didn't take anything from them at all. You wake stiff and aching, your hide cloak damp and clinging, and your mouth filled with the sour taste of unwashed teeth and campfire smoke. You stretch, but your muscles resist like rusted hinges. Your mind, dulled by lack of sleep and grief, tries to catch up with your body as the others begin to move. There's a hole in the group now, Not a literal one, the stones over the body cover that, but a silent, invisible gap where the young hunter used to be. No one fills it. No one mentions him. Everyone simply shifts slightly inward, and life continues. You help rebuild the fire pit. It had gone out during the night, after the embers hissed away into the damp soil. You scrape ashes aside, pile dry grass into a nest, and begin the all too familiar ritual of please let this spark work. Your arms are weak, your hands blistered from yesterday's fire drill. You strike flint against stone, again and again, while your brain shouts that you are too tired to do this. But that doesn't matter. You have to do it anyway. Eventually, this spark takes. You nurse it like a wounded animal, feeding it air and dry twigs, until the flames leap high enough to be trusted. Someone pats your shoulder. Not a thank you, just acknowledgement. That's enough. Here's your mainstream historical fact. Fire was everything. Archaeological evidence suggests that by around 400,000 years ago, Homo erectus had learned to control fire for warmth, protection, and cooking. But controlling fire wasn't enough. You had to keep it alive. Starting from scratch every day was a last resort. And your quirky tidbit: some nomadic groups carried embers and hollowed out animal horns, wrapped in moss or bark, to keep a flame smoldering for hours during migration. Prehistoric pocket lighters if you didn't mind a bit of smoke and burns. The morning meal is slim: some bark mash, a few leftover tubers, a handful of tiny nuts someone found before dawn. It tastes like despair and keeps you just hungry enough to keep moving. Then comes the swarm. It starts small, a buzz in your ear, a few stinging itches on your ankle. You think nothing of it, until the swarm becomes plague-like. Mosquitoes, fleas, gnats, and something like a fly but with teeth. They're everywhere, biting, crawling, feasting. You slap wildly. You swat your arms, your neck, your face. Someone throws a handful of ash on themselves. Another rubs mud over their skin. It helps. Barely. The dog thing snaps at the air, trying to bite one of the buzzing nuisances. Its ears fold back, tail tucked. Even it knows this is war. You join in the ritual. Handful of mud. Smear it across your face, down your arms, over your legs. You look ridiculous. You feel ridiculous. But it works. A little, just enough. Here's your fun, gross reality. Insects were constant enemies in the Stone Age. Fleas, lice, and mosquitoes weren't just annoyances, they were disease carriers, and without repellents, early humans got creative. Your quirky tidbit: some groups burn specific herbs like wormwood or dried pine to create smoke clouds that kept bugs at bay. You don't know if it worked, but it probably smelled better than you do right now. Someone in the group starts coating a hide with a thick sludge of crushed leaves, ash, and sap. They spread it over their legs like prehistoric sunscreen. You copy them. It's disgusting, but it beats being eaten alive by tiny vampires. You keep moving, because once again, it's time to relocate. The new camp, it turns out, was never meant to be permanent, just a temporary safety net. The plan now is to head downhill toward a river valley where, supposedly, herds were spotted last season. More food, more danger. The path down is brutal. Loose stones slide underfoot. Roots grab at your ankles. You fall twice, once catching yourself, once not. The second fall earns you a nasty scrape down your shin and a mouthful of pine needles. No one helps you up. They look, but they don't help. Because this is a test. Can you keep up? You grit your teeth and rise. You're not giving them a reason to question your place here. Not now. You limp for the next half hour, pretending it doesn't hurt. When you finally reach the valley, it's breathtaking wide, open space. Tall, golden grass swaying in the wind. And in the distance, movement, a herd. Too far to identify, but large. Possibly deer, possibly bison, possibly something worth chasing. The elders gather. Murmurs of planning begin. You're not a hunter, but you listen closely. The plan is to track the herd from a distance, then split into two groups. One to flush, one to wait in ambush. You're assigned to the flush group. Of course you are. Your legs ache. Your cut is still bleeding. You're hungry. You're scared. But you nod anyway. Because to refuse is to be left behind. And you've already seen how quickly people become unnecessary in the Stone Age. Still think you'd survive more than a day. Because survival isn't a moment. It's a decision. And you keep making it. You trail behind the flush team. Your feet heavy. Your knees stiff. And your eyes locked on the swaying grass that hides you. Every few steps, Someone ahead parts the stalks with their spear or club, checking for holes, snakes, or if you're lucky, the herd is somewhere up ahead. The plan is simple. Push them toward the ambush group waiting near a narrow ravine. It's the oldest tactic in the book, herding prey into a kill zone. Simple on paper. On prehistoric terrain, it's a gamble, especially when half your tools are sticks and wishful thinking. Someone gestures to spread out. You veer slightly to the left. The grass taller than your shoulders now. The stalks scrape your cheeks. Every breath you take stirs insects into the air. You try not to swat. Too much motion might alert the animals. Your heartbeat pounds like a drum against your ribs. You hear it first. Low grunts. Shuffling hooves. Then a snort. You freeze. Through a gap in the grass. You glimpse them, deer. Know something bigger. Maybe wild cattle. Thick and powerful. Built like muscle with legs. They move in loose formation. Ears twitching. Eyes scanning the air. They haven't spotted you. The leader of your group raises his hand, signaling, "Go now." You burst forward. So does everyone else. The grass explodes into chaos. Yells, thudding footsteps, waving arms. The herd startles, panic rippling through muscle and instinct. They run, not away, but toward the ravine, toward the waiting spears. You run, too, not to catch anything, just to keep up, to hold the line, to look useful. Your lungs burn, your scraped shin throbs, but you don't stop. You crash through a patch of uneven ground and nearly trip. Something moves near you just keep moving. Then a shout from ahead. The kill zone has begun. You arrive at the ridge just as the first animal falls, hit in the neck with a stone-tipped spear. Another stumbles as it tries to veer away and slips down the embankment. It's messy, not elegant, not surgical. It's real. More shouting. Spears are thrown. Clubs raised. The animals that escape will be chased. The one that didn't, it twitches once, then stills. You stand over the body, panting, knees trembling. Its eye stares up at you, wide and unblinking. This is your dinner. And maybe breakfast, and maybe a piece of jerky if someone's patient enough to smoke it. Here's your mainstream historical fact. Large game hunting was one of the defining skills of early Homo sapiens. It required planning, coordination, communication, and it's also what many believe helped humans outcompete other hominids by your quirky tidbit. Some cave paintings suggest that successful hunts were sometimes reenacted for ritual or teaching. Imagine prehistoric TikTok spot in charcoal and with a lot more blood. The tribe swarms to kill. Someone gives thanks, words you don't understand but feel deep in your spine. The body is bled quickly. The meat sectioned with sharp flint. Nothing is wasted. Hide, sinew, bone, organs. You're handed a task. You take a sharp-edged stone and begin sliding it along a slab of hide, removing fat and tissue. It smells awful. Your arms cramp after 2 minutes, but you don't complain. You're part of the machine now. Even the children help. They carry bones, pile grass for bedding, collect dung for fire fuel. There's no age limit on usefulness. If you can stand, you can serve. The meat is hauled back in bundles. The pace is slower, this time heavy with success. The dogding trots proudly beside one of the haulers, its muzzle damp with blood. No one pushes it away. Back at camp, the fire is already going again. The smell of cooking fills the air strong. Greasy. You're starving, but you know you'll have to wait. Elders eat first. The injured next, children. Then everyone else. You don't know where you fall in that order, but you keep scraping the hide like it's a privilege. And weirdly, it is. As the meat roasts on wooden skewers, stories begin again. Someone mimics the herd running, stomping their feet like hooves. Laughter ripples out. Even you smile. The dog lies at your feet, ears twitching, head on its paws. You feel something then, belonging, but a sense that maybe, for this one moment, you've proven something. That you're not just a tourist in terror. You get your share, a small hunk of charred meat. It burns your fingers. You eat it anyway. You chew slowly, savoring every smoky, stringy, glorious bite. You didn't kill the animal. You didn't throw a spear, but you helped. And that matters here. As the sun sinks again, and the air cools, you sit with a full belly and a warm fire. For the first time since arriving in this savage time warp, you feel something close to peace. Still think you'd survive the Stone Age. You're starting to believe you might, at least until the next disaster. The fire burns lower now, its orange glow painting soft shadows onto the rocks behind you. Fat crackles in the flames from the roasting bones. and the air smells like smoke, grease, and something eerily sweet. You sit cross-legged, picking sinew out from under your fingernails with a flake of flint, your mind humming with exhaustion and meat-fueled contentment. Someone hums again, low and rhythmic, just like the night before. This time, it's accompanied by the dull thump of a hand drum made from stretched hide and a hollow log. A child taps a rock in rhythm. Someone chuckles. The mood is softer tonight, not relaxed. Exactly. Never relaxed, but grateful. You glance around. The tribe is full, fed, and fire-warmed. No one talks about the death from the night before. They don't need to. It lives under the skin now, part of the silence between the laughter. You lie back on your hide mat and stare up at the stars again. This time, they don't look so cold, not so far away. Just quiet, watching. And then a thought hits you. How do these people remember anything? There are no books, no journals, no chalkboards, or even cave walls in this particular camp. But they know things. They carry knowledge: who to trust, what route to chew, where the prey moves in certain moons. How, you ask. One of the elders gestures you closer to the fire. He picks up a stick, draws a series of lines in the dirt loops, dots, wavy marks. Then he starts to speak. A name, a story, a place, a time. He taps each mark as he speaks, and suddenly it clicks. This is a map, not a physical one, an oral one. A memory ritual. Every loop is a journey. Every dot is a river. Every mark means food, or danger, or the site of something sacred. Here's your mainstream historical fact. Long before writing, early humans used memory, palaces, songs, rhythms, stories, and physical gestures to encode and transmit information. This oral tradition was vital, especially in nomadic cultures. Elders were walking libraries. Your quirky tidbit. In some tribes, people used knotted strings producopus to track time, record deaths, or organize resource counts. A string for each season, a knot for each hunt. Prehistoric spreadsheets. The elder hands you the stick, nods at the dirt. You hesitate, then scratch a line next to his. He watches, corrects. You try again, and just like that, you're learning. It's a strange intimacy, this way of sharing knowledge. Not written, not archived. Lived. Each story passed from mouth to ear to memory. Each mistake corrected in real time. You feel the weight of it now. If you forget something, it could be gone forever. You stay by the fire, scratching marks in the dirt, practicing loops and waves and symbols you barely understand. Someone brings you a tiny piece of hide, soft, clean, scraped, thin. They show you how to press charcoal into it with your fingertip, making rough lines, copying what you learned. It's not art, it's survival. You're starting to realize something unsettling. It's not just your body adapting, it's your mind. You don't miss your phone as much, or your blanket, or your playlist of lo-fi beats. You're remembering things differently now, sensing differently. You're becoming someone else. But the past won't let you fully forget. You're reminded of it when someone starts telling a story, not a fun one. A memory, about a time the river flooded, about how they lost 2 children, about how they learned not to camp so low after that. The group listens in silence. The wind rustles. The flames flicker. The story ends with a gesture, a simple circle drawn in the dirt. It's not about grief. It's about warning. You hear the message clear as day. Don't repeat this mistake. You swallow hard. Because you know you will. Not today. Maybe not tomorrow. But someday, the story will be about you. Still think you'd survive the Stone Age. Because surviving is more than hunting and eating. It's remembering, and never forgetting what it cost you to live. Morning comes not with a chorus of songbirds, or a warm ray of light on your face, but with a dull ache in your lower back. A swarm of gnats hovering around your ears, and someone poking you in the ribs with a stick. Time to move again. You groan, roll over, and nearly smack your face into a clump of animal dung. You're not even mad, just tired. Really tired. Your hide mat is damp again. Your shoulders feel like they've been carrying stones all night. And your stomach is already protesting, even though it knows exactly what's coming. Roasted root. Maybe a stray nut if you're blessed. You rub your eyes and sit up. The fire's down to blackened logs, but someone is already nursing a new pile of kindling into a smoky flicker. You're not even surprised. They always beat you to it. You're not sure they even sleep. As you slowly pull on your cloak and scrape the dirt from your tunic, you hear laughter. That's unusual. You glance toward the commotion and spot two young teens arguing over a story. One insists that their ancestor once outran a cheetah. The other says he flew by jumping off a cliff with eagle feathers tied to his arms. The flight ended in a broken collarbone and a long nap, apparently. You expect the adults to scold them. They don't. Instead, someone joins in, adding their own twist about a man who could turn invisible if he held his breath long enough. The kids erupt in laughter. So do you realize then? They know these stories are nonsense. But they tell them anyway. Because stories make the hard things softer. They give the world a shape, a meaning. They help carry memory without it feeling like a burden. Here's your mainstream historical fact. Many of the world's oldest myths began as distorted recollections of real events: a flood, a hunt, an illness. Over time, through generations of telling and retelling, they became something new. Not less true, just differently true. And your quirky tip: in some tribal cultures, lying in a story wasn't frowned upon. It was a sign of creativity. Storytellers were allowed to embellish wildly, as long as they didn't break the hard truth of the tale. You're given another strip of hide, this one rougher. Already have you copy a few charcoal marks from the eldest, trying to remember which lines mean mountain and which mean don't eat the red berries unless you want to meet the spirit goat. The elder watches you, nods once. You're improving. After a rough breakfast and a bit of hide tending, it's time for the next major task. Tool maintenance. You're handed a chunk of flint, a hammerstone, and a quick gesture. You break it. You shape it. You sharpen it. You sigh. And begin. Flint knapping is difficult. It's not just smashing rocks. It's pressure, angles, rhythm. You chip a flake off one side, and suddenly the other side becomes useless. You press too hard and the whole thing snaps in two. You go too slow and get nothing. It's like carving glass that hates you. You try, fail, try again. Your fingers get scraped. Your thumb bleeds a little. You finally manage something vaguely sharp. The elder picks it up, inspects it, grunts, then throws it into the maybe later pile. You'll take it. Here's your mainstream historical fact. Flint tools were one of the defining technologies of early humans. From knives to scrapers to spear points, the ability to shape stone meant the difference between eating dinner and being dinner. Your quirky tidbit: some early cultures actually traded flint across vast distances. Think of it as prehistoric currency. If your group had good stone, you had power. While you're struggling with your stone project, someone nearby ties feathers to a stick. Not for hunting, for dancing. Later, when the work is done, there'll be a small ceremony. Not for anything in particular, just because everyone's still alive. You're not sure whether to be excited or worried. Later that afternoon, the sun comes out hard, burning away the mist and drying your tunic for the first time in 3 days. You actually feel warm thrill, warmth on your shoulders. People begin to gather near the edge of the clearing. Drums start again. The feather stick is passed around. One by one, tribe members begin stamping their feet, clapping, whirling in simple circles. Someone pulls you in. You hesitate, then move. It's not graceful, but it feels like something, not joy, exactly, but relief. Shared movement, shared rhythm, like your body remembering that it's more than just a vessel for Savibalit can participate. Historians still argue whether prehistoric dance was spiritual, ritualistic, or simply social. But you don't need an anthropologist to explain it. You feel it in your bones. Its connection to each other, to the land, to something bigger. You spin once, laugh once, just one sand for a flickering second. Forget how hard this all is. Then someone slips in the mud. Everyone laughs again. The moment passes, but it stays, too. Just enough to carry you to the next sunrise. Still think you'd survive the Stone Age? Well, you just dance through it. By now, your body has started doing strange things. Your shoulders popped when you stretch. Your skin is toughening in places you didn't know could harden. Your feet, they're becoming hooves. Not literally, but they've gone past blisters, past pain, into a kind of numb leather you stomp around on without feeling much. And your sense of time, gone. You don't think in hours anymore. You think in firelight and stomach growls and sun direction. You know it's sometime before noon because the light is harsh but not overhead. And someone's already sharpening a spear with that look that says, "We're running low again." You glance toward the meat cache. It's smaller than yesterday. Already, flies buzz around the edges. The better cuts are gone. You get the feeling you'll be chewing tendons soon, if not already. This is the rhythm now. Rest, eat, Hatch hides, make tools, track, hunt, cook, guard, sleep, repeat. You used to mark days by events. Wednesday is laundry, Friday is pizza. But now, it's more like the day we slipped on wet roots, the day we didn't catch anything, the night someone nearly walked off the cliff. That brings you to today's fun fact. You're heading toward the cliffs. Well, not the cliffs, but a ridge a hunter's claim overlooks a riverbed. If you're lucky, it might be dry this season. If you're really lucky, the animals will be crossing it. You're not in the hunt group today, but you're assigned to accompany them as a lookout. Basically, the job you give the person who can't yet throw a spear straight, but isn't so useless they should stay behind. You nod like it's an honor. And then the real challenge begins. Climbing. You don't get hiking boots in the Stone Age, you get busted toenails, and the incredible privilege of scrambling up rock with your hands full of fire-hardened wood and bone-tipped spears. You move in a line slow. One person leads, testing each foothold before waving you forward. You're breathless within 5 minutes. Your knees scream at you. Your hands bleed a little from grabbing the wrong rock edge. You pretend you're fine. Halfway up, someone slips. It's minor, a scrape. But everyone pauses. Because if they'd fallen backwards, they wouldn't be scraped, they'd be gone. One shout, one thud, then a long silence. You don't talk about it. You just keep moving. At the top, the view takes your breath in a different way. The riverbed stretches wide and dry beneath you. Cracked earth, tracks, faint movement, far off hoofed creatures maybe, heading towards something shinier in the east. You're handed a pair of bone binoculars, just curved sticks. You hold to the sides of your face to block sun glare and focus your sight forward. You squint. There are animals. A herd. Maybe 20. Maybe more. You report back. The leader nods. Tomorrow, they'll move the whole group. Set a new camp near the base. Try to intercept. You begin the descent. Which, by the way, is worse than the climb. You slip once. Your elbow hits a rock. You don't scream, but your eyes water hard. Someone steadies you without a word. Here's your mainstream historical fact. Cliffside hunting sites have been found around the world, many showing evidence of humans using elevation not just for vantage but as a tool. In some places, animals were even driven toward cliffs to fall. Brutal, effective, very. Your quirky tidbit. In some cultures, rock formations were given nicknames and passed down through generations like family friends. The sleeping giant, or the goat's eye, those weren't just directions. They were landmarks with stories. The land wasn't just space, it was memory. Back at camp, you get a break. Not because anyone offers it, but because everyone's busy. You sit under a tree, pulling bark from a branch and twisting it into a cord. It's pointless, busy work. But your hands won't stop moving. You're too wired. The dog thing rests near you. You've stopped wondering if it's really yours. It stays close. It growls at the dark. That's enough. You think of home sometimes. Not out of longing, out of confusion. Would you even know how to go back? What would you do with the soft bed? Would silence feel scary without the snap of twigs and the buzz of flies? Would you miss this? It's a horrifying thought, that this brutality could become comfort. But it's not really that, is it? It's clarity. You know your place. You know what needs to happen. You know how to help. That's rare in any century. Later that evening, a storm looms on the edge of the sky, but it stays distant. Clouds piled like ancient teeth above the trees. You prep the shelter against stakes, hide, rope. You do it faster than yesterday. No one comments, but they notice. You sit beside the fire. You breathe. You eat tendon stew and don't gag. You're surviving. Still think you'd survive a week in the Stone Age. You're getting closer. But tomorrow, you're following the herd. And they don't care how tired you are. The fire is a pale glow when you wake, flickering weakly like it knows you're about to ask too much from it again. The ground is harder than usual. Or maybe you're just sore in new places. Your neck cracks when you stretch. So does your spine. You feel like a tree branch that got stepped on one too many times. Today's the day. The herd was spotted near the riverbed, and now the tribe's packing up again. You're used to it by now. There's no such thing as settling here. Every fire, every shelter, every pile of sticks is temporary. The only permanence is motion. Survival means chasing food or avoiding being it. You roll up your hide mat, sling your bag, and check your tools. Fire starter, stone blade, flint chip, scrap of hide with your charcoal marks from the elder's memory map. It's almost a routine now. You could do it with your eyes closed. Almost As the group sets off, the elder gestures for you to walk near the front. You blink. You're not sure if it's a promotion or just punishment for being tall enough to swat away the spiderwebs. Either way, you nod and move up. The journey begins. Through ways, along stone-strewn down narrow game paths etched into dirt by generations of hooves, paws, and barefoot people, trying not to twist an ankle. There's less talking today, just breath, footsteps, the occasional grunt when someone stumbles. The dog thing stays close to the kids at the rear. Its ears twitched with every sound, but it walks like it belongs now. No one questions it anymore. And then you come upon something unexpected. A pile of stones. Not natural. Arranged to kern. Someone mutters. Another nods. This isn't your tribe's doing. It's another group's marker. You pause. Your pulse stutters. This is the first solid proof you've seen of other humans, ones who aren't your own. Ones who might be nearby. Or might be watching. Or might be long gone. You don't know what's worse. Here's your mainstream historical fact. Early humans were not as isolated as we like to imagine. There were networks, trade, migration paths, shared rituals, sometimes friendly, sometimes deadly. A pile of stones could be a grave, a warning, or a welcome. Your quirky tidbit: some cultures stacked stones in threes. One for the earth, one for the ancestors, one for the unknown. Knock it over, and you invited bad luck or worse. Attention, you don't touch it. The group circles around it and moves on. Pace a little faster now. You followed the trail downward into the river valley. The sun climbs behind cloud-thin skies, diffused and glaring. You sweat in places you didn't know had glands. The riverbed is wide, cracked, and mostly dry. A shallow stream trickles through one end, muddy and warm. But the real prize is the trampled dirt. Tracks, fresh ones. The herd moved through here hours ago. Your leader crouches, inspects the prints. His fingers hover over the indent shapes you can't decipher. But he reads like a letter. He nods once, points east, and so you walk again. By noon, the heat is thick and buzzing. You're slick with sweat, dizzy from exertion. The water you brought is nearly gone, and the idea of stopping to refill seems quaint. You'll do it later. If later exists. You pause at a bend in the path. Something glints on the ground. You kneel. It's a tooth. Too big for a dog, too smooth for a predator. Human. Your stomach tightens. Not fresh, not ancient either. Maybe a year, maybe a season. Someone else sees. They say nothing. The group keeps moving. There are no crime scenes here. No investigations. Just old remains and the quiet math of someone didn't make it. You walk a little faster after that. Eventually, you reach the edge of a thicket where the grass opens into a shallow basin on open feeding ground with scattered shrubs and animal trails. The elder raises his hand. The group stops. They're close, you're told to wait. You crouch, heart pounding, hands on your thighs. Across the field, maybe 100 paces out, you finally spot them. The herd, big, muscular, slow-stepping, and alert. At least a dozen. You feel the plan take shape around you. A few hunters circle wide, preparing the push. The rest ready their weapons. And you're told to stay, to watch, to remember. This is your role. Observation. It stinks a little, but you accept it, because if something goes wrong, if they don't come back, it'll be up to you to tell the story, to explain the tactics, the mistake, the victory, the cost. Here's your mainstream historical fact. Storytelling wasn't entertainment in prehistoric society. Was instruction. Battles, hunts, migrations, they were passed down through each one, keeping the tribe from making the same mistake twice. Your quirky tidbit. In some communities, failures were told just as proudly as successes. Falling off a cliff while chasing an animal became a teaching tale. A lesson in caution, not shame. You crouch lower in the grass, eyes locked on the herd. A shout echoes from the left. The herd bolts. The chase begins. You stay still, and you wait, because remembering is part of survival. Still think you'd survive this far. The story's getting more dangerous, and now, you're part of it. The chase erupts like a thunderclap through the valley. You feel it before you see it, the pounding of hooves against dry soil, the panicked cries of animals, the shouts of hunters echoing through the trees. It's chaos, controlled only by instinct and momentum. You stay frozen in the grass, just like they told you. But your entire body screams to move, to run, to do something. It's maddening to watch the line of muscle and dust thunder past without joining in. Still, you obey. Because the rule out here is simple. Do your part, or get someone killed. The herd is moving too fast. Maybe one of the animals veers too early and nearly makes it past the flanking hunters. But a spear flashes through the air and knocks it sideways. Not dead, but limping now. Slowing. The ambush group appears from the far ridge, rising from behind stones like ghosts. Their spears form a wall, crude and deadly. The herd stumbles. Another animal falls, kicking wildly in the dirt before it's silenced. You look away for a moment, not out of fear, out of respect. The limping one, the one hit earlier, is circling wide now, separated from the group. That's when the leader shouts your name. It's time. You don't think, you run. The grass whips against your legs. Your lungs feel too small. Your hands clutch a stone blade like it might suddenly become something more useful. You don't know what you're doing, just that they need you to help drive it back toward the others. You raise your arms, shout, and veer toward it. The animal freezes for a split second, unsure whether to charge or flee. You yell again, louder this time. It bolts the other direction into the trap. The others finish the job. When it's over, the hunters raise their arms and whoop. One ruffles your hair like you're a child who just learned how to walk. You're panting too hard to respond. But inside, you're flying. You helped. Again. Not just with wood or bark or by not dying. You were part of the hunt. And for the first time, that means something more than just being there. It means belonging. Here's your mainstream historical fact. Cooperative hunting, especially with coordinated flanking and ambush tactics, was a major factor in the rise of human social structures. It required planning, communication, and trust skills that would later shape agriculture, trade, even governance. Your quirky tidbit. Some groups marked successful hunts with a blood smear. A streak of the animal's blood swiped across the face of the youngest participant. A messy, primitive version of a gold star. You don't get smeared today, but someone hands you a tendon to carry, which is about as close to a compliment as it gets. The carcass is heavy. It takes 6 people to haul it back. Others carry meat from the first animal. Bones are split immediately from a row. You watch someone tie a coil of intestines around their shoulder like a rope. No part is wasted, not even the parts you'd rather pretend didn't exist. As you walk back toward camp, the sun dipping low behind the ridge, your legs start to wobble. Not from pain, from adrenaline crashing. It's like all the strength you had suddenly turned to water. You push through it. Everyone else is doing the same. Back of the camp, the dog thing runs out to meet you. Tail high, it sniffs the carcass and barks once approval. You think, then comes the butchering. You're handed a flint scraper and a slab of hide to stretch. Someone else works the ribs. Someone else guts. The smell is overwhelming, metallic and sour and strangely comforting. Because now you won't go hungry. Not tonight. Later, as the meat sizzles over the fire and smoke curls into the evening air, the group gathers in a wide circle. Tired, dirty, satisfied. Someone starts a chant, no words, just a rhythm. It builds. Others join in. You do, too. You don't know what it means, but your body understands it. And then, the elder starts the story. He doesn't mention names. He mimics movement. A herd. A young one on the edge. Stepping forward. Arms out. A yell. Everyone watches him, but he watches you. He's telling your part of the story. You smile. Just a little. Because now you're not just surviving. You're being remembered. Still think you'd survive. You're starting to become someone they'd miss. The fire crackles beside you, and the meat in your hands is still hot enough to burn if you hold it too long, but you don't care. You blow across the strip of roasted fat and flesh, then bite in with shaking hands. It's tough, smoky, a little gritty from ash. It tastes like glory, and like everything else in this world, you have to earn every bite. The others eat in silence, not out of custom, but exhaustion. Today was a good day, a rare one. No injuries, no bad weather, no strange tracks in the night. The kind of day that gets told around fires 100 seasons from now, even if it wasn't perfect. But you're learning that perfection doesn't exist out here. What exists is sufficiency. Enough food, enough warmth, enough strength to keep going. That's as good as it gets. You finish your share and lick your fingers. A younger boy nearby chews on a bone end, then offers it to the dog thing, which snatches it with a satisfied grunt. You smile. The sky is fading to charcoal again. Purple clouds drift like smudges above the trees. There's a breeze, but it's gentle, no threat of storm. A few people begin laying hides for sleep. Others pick burrs out of each other's tunics. You remain seated, not quite ready to lie down. One of the elders taps you with the flat side of a stick and gestures to follow. You ride. They lead you past the edge of the firelight, toward a cluster of boulders where the flickering glow just barely reaches. You notice now, for the first time, faint scratches in the rock. Symbols. Lines. Not art. Memory. This is the oral tradition made visual. Not writing, but something like it. A combination of gesture, voice, and pattern. The elder begins to trace one of the marks with a charcoal-stained finger, speaking in low tones. You can't understand the language fully, but the rhythm carries meaning. Flood, loss, rebuilding. A circle around a dot campfire. Maybe a long downward stream. Then he points to you, then to the firelight behind you. Then, slowly, he presses your hand to the stone and nods. He's telling you, it's your turn to remember something, to mark it. You hesitate. Then you use your thumb to smear a curved line beside his small, simple, your own addition. Your story begins here, whether you like it or not. Here's your mainstream historical fact. Petroglyphs, carvings, and paintings. On stone are some of the earliest forms of human symbolic communication. Some are more than 40,000 years old. They may not be writing in the modern sense, but they were maps, warnings, and shared knowledge across generations. Your quirky tidbit. Some caves contain symbols that appear repeatedly across continents' wavy lines. Handprints. Animal tracks leading scholars to believe there may have been a kind of symbolic language understood across long distances. You sit back from the rock and take it in. It doesn't look like much. A smudge. A line. But you know what it means. You made it through the hunt. You helped. And now the memory is there. Even if it fades, it's been witnessed. The elder stands and walks back to camp. You follow. By the time you return, someone's begun singing. A slow, haunting tune that bends and breaks like a wind through tall grass. It has no beginning, no chorus, just a feeling, a vibration in your chest. You lie down under your hide, head near the fire, the song still echoing in your ears. And for the first time, the dark doesn't scare you, because now you carry part of the story. You feel tired, but in a good way. Like the way your muscles ache after building something with your own hands. It's not misery, it's meaning. Still think you'd survive the Stone Age. You're doing more than that now. You're leaving a mark. Morning comes as it always does, without ceremony. No alarm, no soft playlist fading in, no comforting routine of coffee and emails. Just the damp, the ache in your hips, the quiet stretch of dawn over a dirt horizon. The fire's out. The birds are already arguing in the trees. You sit up, brush a beetle off your leg, and stretch until something in your shoulder cracks like a twig. Then comes the smell. Smoke, but not yours. Others are already standing. Silent, alert, not panicked. The air carries the unmistakable tang of burned wood, sharp and recent. Not a forest fire too contained. A cooking fire. Close. Too close. You're not alone. The elder signals a hush. A few of the hunters gather spears. You're handed nothing, just a look. Stay what? You crouch beside a tree, heart thudding. The dog thing stiffens beside you, ears sharp, nose twitching. A few moments later, you spot movement through the trees. Not animals, people, and not from your group. They wear similar hides, but the cut is different, hair braided tighter. Their tools, though crude like yours, gleam sharper. One of them laughs too loud for someone hunting. They're relaxed. You're relaxed with a jolt. They don't know you're here. Your group doesn't attack, doesn't greet, either. They observe, because here's your next reality check. In the Stone Age, another human wasn't always a friend. Sometimes they were trade partners, sometimes distant cousins, sometimes enemies, and sometimes just competition for the same deer. Here's your mainstream historical fact. Homo sapiens lived alongside other hominins like Neanderthals for thousands of years. Even other sapiens groups weren't guaranteed to cooperate. Archaeological evidence shows signs of both intergroup violence and trade. Your quirky tidbit. Some groups marked their territory not with signs or fences but with scent. Smoke trails, crushed plants, and even feces were used to say, "This is ours!" A prehistoric no trespassing sign, written in the most primal ink possible. You stay frozen for nearly an hour. The strangers pass through slowly, stopping now and then to gather leaves, inspect a route, Leave something small near a trip, possibly an offering, possibly a marker. They never see you. When they're gone, your group breathes again. Tension dissolves like mist. No one speaks about it. No one has to. You eat later, quietly. The meat from yesterday is almost gone, and your bark paste is reduced to a chewy, tasteless memory. The elder gathers the younger ones and gestures toward you. You blink. You're asked to lead a simple exercise. Identify animal tracks. Trace a simple route on the memory hide. Name 3 poisonous plants. You fumble through it, awkward but sincere. They listen. You're teaching. You didn't see this coming. Afterward, the elder walks beside you. He doesn't say much, just hands you a thicker piece of hide, already marked with charcoal patterns. More advanced, more symbols. You're not told to learn it. You're expected to. That evening, the fire crackles back to life. You sit with the others, hands blackened with soot and pine sap. The air rich with that strange combination of smoke and wet leather. A child hands you a stick with roasted tuba. You accept it without words. Someone begins a story, not the elder this time. One of the hunters. A tale of a river spirit that punishes those who fish on the wrong day. The story makes no logical sense, but it carries rhythm, pattern, meaning. A calendar, disguised as myth. And suddenly, you understand it. Not the surface, the function. This is how they pass time. Not days of the week, not months, but stories. You lean back, gazing into the fire. The smoke rises in curls, reminding you of the stranger's fire. A different group, moving just beyond sight. You wonder if they tell stories like this. If they teach with hide and act. If they'd welcome you or take what you have. Still think you'd survive the Stone Age. You just witnessed another tribe, and you didn't die. Sometimes, that's the win. You wake too quiet. Not the usual kinda gentle rustle of wind or distant bird calls, but a dense, unnatural stillness. No insects, no chirps. Even the dog thing is alert. Ears standing, tail stiff. It doesn't bark, just growls. Low and constant, like thunder rumbling through its ribs. Something's wrong. The elders are already awake, whispering in short, clipped tones. One points toward the east, then gestures to the trees. You don't need translation. It's time to move. The air feels thicker than usual. Tense, like the forest is holding its breath. You pack fast. No breakfast. No chance. No stories. Just movement. Your knees protest with every step, but you don't slow down. The others don't either. Even the children sense the urgency. This isn't a migration. It's a retreat. You would cross back through the river valley, skirting the edge of the dry creek where the herd once ran. The old cairn you passed a few days ago, it's gone. Stones scattered, knocked over. That's when it hits you. The other group didn't just pass through. They were sending a message. You keep walking. Eventually, the tribe halts near a rocky overhang, an old shelter used in seasons past. There are marks on the walls. Familiar ones. This was a place to hide, maybe even recover. You help patch the gaps with branches. Stretch the hide wall. Not fancy, but it'll keep the wind out. As you work, your ears catch the faint sound of drumming. Not yours. Far off. Rhythmic. Deliberate. Another tribe. A warning. A ritual. No one knows. But it's close enough that even the elders seem unsettled. You gather near the fire once the camp is secured. This time, no one speaks for a long while. Then the elder steps forward with a bundle of sticks. Each one is carved at the end. Simple mark slashes, dots. They pass one to each person. When yours comes, you inspect it. Your name. Your mark. You've been added. It's not ceremony. It's accounting. Here's your mainstream historical fact. Some of the earliest tally systems involved carved sticks or bones used to track members, resources, or time passed. These weren't decorative, they were essential. You're a quirky tidbit. One prehistoric tally bone found in Africa, the Ashango bone, is over 20,000 years old and may represent lunar cycles or possibly multiplication. It's like a Stone Age pocket calculator. You keep your stick, tie it to your satchel. It feels heavier than it should. Night comes faster here. The fire burns low. And still no one tells a story. The silence is starting to feel like a sound of its own, thick, stretching, pressing against your thoughts. The dog thing won't sit. It paces, sniffs the air. You glance toward the trees, wondering if someone or something is out there, just watching, just waiting. Still think you'd survive the Stone Age. Because this isn't just about spears and hunting and not eating poison berries. This is about territory, trust, threats that look like you but don't think like you. You lie down with one eye open, and hope tomorrow still belongs to your group. You don't sleep. Not really. Every twig snap makes your heart jump. Every rustle of leaves sends your hand to your flint knife, though. You already know it won't help much if someone really wants to hurt you. The dog thing growls off and on through the night, restless, pacing the edges of camp like a worn-down sentry. You swear you see eyes in the forest more than once, but they vanish the moment you blink. And somehow, despite the exhaustion and fear, morning still finds you. Not with sunlight, though, not yours. Again, only this time, it's closer. The elder doesn't need to speak. Everyone's already packing before he even gestures. Tools, meat, hide, your tally stickle, jammed into satchels with fumbling fingers. The tribe moves like a practiced current, flowing into the trees before the fire even dies. You're deeper in the forest now. The ground here is springy with rot and moss. Light barely makes it through the canopy, and you're suddenly hyper-aware of just how many places someone could hide in this green gloom. It's not a stampede, it's a retreat. Because in the Stone Age, sometimes the only way to live is to leave. You stumble a few times. Roots, fatigue, the weight of your gear. But no one helps you up. Not because they don't care, but because if they stop, they risk the same. Eventually, you reach a stream. Not wide, but fast. The elder signals for silence. The group crosses slow, careful, trying not to leave too many You're last. Halfway across, you glance downstream. You freeze. On the far bank, caught in a shaft of morning light, is a footprint. Fresh, human, not yours. You hurry. Once across, the group scatters dry leaves to obscure your tracks. One of the younger boys even climbs a tree and shakes branches to let twigs fall across the path behind you. This is survival now. Camouflage. Confusion. You hike for hours. No songs. No talking. Even the children are silent. Fear is a great teacher. Eventually, you find higher ground on old rock outcrop overlooking the next valley. The forest below is thick and dark, but safe. For now, the shelter here is barely a cleft in the stone. Everyone crams inside or under woven branches. It's tight, cold, and no one complains. Later that night, the elder gathers a few select people around the fire. You're one of them. He places a flat stone in the center, then begins arranging objects on its sticks. Bones, bits of shell, dried fruit pits. It looks random, but it's not. It's a map. Each object represents a group, a place, a resource. The elder points, gestures, explains. You don't catch every word, but the meaning is clear. There are others nearby, multiple groups, some peaceful, some not, and your tribe is caught in the middle. Here's your mainstream historical facts. Prehistoric humans didn't live in isolation. Studies of DNA and artifact distribution show that groups migrated, traded, interbred and, yes, clashed. Geography shaped relationships, and sometimes survival meant navigating politics, not just predators. You're quirky. Some evidence suggests early humans used drums, whistle, or even smoke signals to communicate between distant camps. Early warning systems for raids, herds, or environmental danger. You point to a shell in the map and raise your eyebrows. The elder grunts. He flips the shell over, revealing a red smear of pigment on the underside. Bad, not safe. You nod. Later, you sit by the edge of the outcrop, staring into the dark valley. The fire flickers behind you. You can hear the soft breathing of the others. Even the dog thing finally sleeps, though. One ear still twitches toward the trees. You look down at your tally stick. You run your thumb over the notch that marks the hunt, the teaching, the moment you earned your place. And now, another notch. Flight, not defeat. Just the truth of life out here. Historians still argue whether prehistoric tribes had formal leaders, or just deferred to wisdom in moments of crisis. But you know this. In every group, someone had to keep the memory. Someone had to say, we were here. We learned. We survived. You're becoming that person. Still think you'd survive this Stone Age. Because now it's not just about it's about strategy. And tonight, you live because your people knew when to disappear. You wake to a sky smeared with gray and purple. Rain came sometime during the nightlight, but persistent. Everything is damp. The fire barely survived, huddled in a pile of smoldering moss and charcoal. You watch the hunter tasked with reviving it. He doesn't rush. He coaxes it like it's alive. Because it is, and in this world, fire is more than warmth. It's safety, memory, territory. Today, The tribe is quiet. Not in fear though, it still lingers, but in thought. You've put distance between you and the other group. That much is clear. But in the Stone Age, distance is temporary. Everything moves. Rivers, prey, danger. And when you're living on the run, your next step matters more than your last. The elder beckons you and 2 others. You're going to scout, not far, just to the valley's edge, past a see if the water runs clean, if the game trails are fresh, if the strangers left any signs. You follow, heart low in your stomach. The path is uneven. Twigs snap beneath your toes. The air is thick with the scent of wet bark and crushed leaves. A bird flits overhead, too fast to see. A single squirrel chitters, then goes quiet, and then you spot it. Scorch marks at the base of an old stump. Not fresh. Maybe 2 days old, but human. Definitely human. Someone else passed through here, cooked something small, burned pine needles as kindling. No bones, no gear, just signs. You squat low, brush the ash with your fingers. Still dry beneath the top layer, but not far. The other scouts nod. One gestures east on Old Deer Trail that dips into the next valley. It's a possible route forward, but also the direction of the stranger's fire. You return with the news. The elder listens without interrupting. Eyes huff. Then he stands, lifts a sharpened bone from the fire circle, and scrapes 3 vertical lines into the dirt beside the sleeping hides. 1 line for each path. 1 path leads toward water and game. Risky, exposed, but rewarding. 1 leads deeper into the forest. Harder, safer, but poorer in food. And the 3rd, backtrack. Rebuild an old camp. Hope the danger has passed. The tribe gathers. There's no vote. There's discussion. Each person steps forward, places a rock, a stick, or a shell onto one of the 3 lines. A silent signal. The stones pile. The shells glint. The meaning grows. This is democracy before ballots. Leadership before thrones. Here's your mainstream historical fact. Many early human societies likely operated through consensus, not dictatorship. Elders, mothers, skilled hunters each had a voice. Power came not from rule, but from respect and proven memory. Your quirky tidbit: some indigenous communities used object voting systems, placing stones in a bowl, sticks on a mat, or knots in a cord to record decisions. The method was silent, symbolic, and surprisingly effective. When the last vote is cast, the decision is clear. The group will go forward toward water and game. You help repack the tools, hide wraps, fire kits. Everyone is efficient, but slower now. Thoughtful. The older ones share glances, like people who've seen this pattern before. Like maybe they've had to run from strangers more times than they admit. Before the march, the elder leads a moment of stillness. No speech, just silence, acknowledging the choice, the risk, the memory. And then you move. Down through brush thick with burrs, across slippery stone ridges, past trees scarred with claw, marks not fresh, thankfully. The journey takes hours. You stop once, at a tiny stream trickling through mossy rocks. The water is cold. Clean your mouth tingles from the chill. Eventually, you reach the edge of the valley. It opens like a promise. Wide, breezy, open meadows, a real stream. The smell of clover, and something faintly sweet, maybe wild fruit, maybe just decay. The others fan out. Someone starts mapping tracks. Someone else tests the soil near the stream. The dog thing sniffs, then trots forward, tail neutral. It's not worried. You take it in. The risk was real, but so was the reward. Still think you'd survived the Stone Age, because today, your group chose the hard path. And you didn't just follow, you helped decide. You don't even notice when the weight of survival shifts from your shoulders to your spineware. It becomes something more permanent, less like a burden, more like a backbone, something your whole posture rests on without you realizing. That's what happens here. In the Stone Age, adaptation isn't a moment. It's a slow unfurling. It creeps in like moss, steady and soft, until one day you look down and realize you've changed. It's been days since you've heard the strangers' drums, or seen their fire smoke. The group now moves freely in the new valley, still cautious, always watching but with less dread in their step. You spend most of the day helping rebuild shelters. The wind here is stronger, so the hide walls must be reinforced with heavier stones. You learn to anchor the base with clay, to seal the cracks with melted sap. When someone hands you a blade and asks you to trim sinew, you don't hesitate. When the kids bring branches for firewood, They come to you first, not out of obedience, but because you've become dependable. You didn't expect that, and yet, it feels right. Later in the morning, the scouts return with news. A fruit grove in the eastern edge of the valley. Mostly safe. Bears nearby, but no recent signs. The tribe prepares to harvest. You join the foraging group this time. It's a welcome break from scraping hides and chasing shadows. And, selfishly, you just want something sweet in your mouth that didn't once walk on four legs. The walk is long, but calm. Birds chirp again. A few small deer dash across your path, tails twitching. The dog thing follows at a lazy pace. You even catch yourself humming. The grove is real. Small trees with twisted trunks and low-hanging branches sag under the weight of round, greenish ships. They look like tiny apples. But when you bite into one after watching someone else do it first, to discover something better. Sweet. Sour. You chew slowly, savoring the juice, the crunch, the tempts that hit your jaw just behind your ears. You forgot fruit could taste like this. You forgot how good food feels when it wasn't earned with blood. You fill your satchel with as many as it will hold. Others do the same. On the way back, you hear laughter. Not nervous laughter, real laughter. Two children chasing each other. A hunter slipping on a wet rock and pretending he meant to do it. Someone making a joke about fruit pizzas throwing weapons. The mood has shifted. Not all the way to safe, but towards something like it. Here's your mainstream historical fact. Prehistoric diets weren't just meat and marrow. They included seasonal fruits, nuts, tubers, and even honey, often gathered communally. Foraging not only provided calories, but shaped migration patterns and group cohesion. Your quirky tidbit. Archaeologists once found remnants of chewed birch bark gum, dating back over 9,000 years, complete with tooth marks and traces of fruit pulp. Ancient humans were chewing sweet sap long before Wrigley's existed. Back at camp, the elders decide to preserve some of the fruit. You help slice thin strips, dry them over low fire. The smoke adds a hint of bitterness, but it's worth it. At dusk, a small celebration sparks up. Not formal, just the joy of something sweet after days of salt and smoke. Someone plays a simple rhythm on a hollow log. Others hum. One child performs an exaggerated version of the hunt, waving a stick like a spear and roaring like the injured prey. People clap. You laugh. And for a moment, you're not just surviving, you're living. You glanced up. The clouds are fading. Stars blink through. You spot the first one. You've come to recognize a cluster shaped like a crooked Y. Someone said it helps mark the season of birds. You don't know if it's true, but you remember it. Because in this world, stories and survival are the same thing. Still think you'd survive the Stone Age. You're starting to understand something deeper. Out here, joy isn't a luxury. It's medicine. And today, the tribe took a dose. You wake before the sun. Not because anyone shook you awake. Not because of danger or barking. But because, somehow, your body knows it's time. That's what happens out here. Your internal clock syncs 2 screens and alarms has been quietly rewired 2 stars. Temperature shifts, and the texture of the light behind your eyelids. You step outside your shelter. Mist hangs low over the valley like breath that hasn't yet exhaled. It's quiet, but not empty. Birds rustle in the underbrush. Something splashes far off, maybe a deer, maybe something larger. You listen. Nothing feels wrong. Not yet. You're scheduled to help check traps. Today's simple snares laid yesterday between the grove and a narrow ridge trail. It's part hunting, part maintenance. Mostly walking, watching, adjusting. You head out with 2 others. The dog thing tags along, nose down, tail neutral. The first snare is empty spring coil, still set, untouched. The second, success, a rabbit. Small, still, caught cleanly behind the neck. The elder beside you nods once and slips the creature into his pouch. Quick, efficient, no prayer, no drama. It's just food. The third snare has been triggered, but it's empty. That's when things shift. The elder squats down, studies the disturbed earth. He frowns, points to the tracks. They're human, not yours. Barefoot. He doesn't speak, but his face says enough. Someone else is using your traps, or stealing from them, or watching them. You'll reset the snare, but your hands tremble. Not from fear, from focus. Every motion becomes more deliberate. Every twig snap sounds louder than it should. On the way back, the 3 of you make a wide arc test in nearby paths, doubling back once. No more footprints, no movement. But the silence feels heavier than before. When you return to camp, The report is brief. No panic. But the message is clear. You're not as alone as you hoped. That evening, the elders gather the older children, yourself included, and assign shifts. Not just fire duty, watch rotations. You're given the second half of the night. From the dead hours after midnight until the slow creep of dawn, the hardest shift. When the dark feels the thickest. When minds play tricks. When stories crawl out of your own memory and ask to be believed again. You nap early. Try to. At least your stomach is full tuba stew and 2 mouthfuls of rabbit. The stars are out, but your eyes don't close. Not when you know you'll be the one standing between your people and something unknown. Your shift begins. You sit beside the fire, blade in your lap, stick nearby to feed the flames. The doggy thing lies beside you, snoring softly still. Somehow, alert, you scan the woods. Nothing. And that's the worst part. It would be easier, almost, if there was something. A shape, a reason to feel this tension. Instead, it's just the trees, the wind, the crackle of the fire. But you remember the footprints. You remember the cairn knocked down, the burns stumped, the drum beats. The strangers are still out there. You just don't know when or if they'll return. Here's your mainstream historical fact. Territorial conflicts between early human groups were likely common, especially in areas where resources were scarce. While some evidence shows cooperation and trade, other finds like mass graves and fortified dwellings, ambushes, and defense. Your quirky tidbit: some hunter-gatherer societies created sound maps patterns of birdsong, animal movement. Even wind shifts do detect intruders. If a particular bird stopped singing, they knew someone was moving nearby. You listen differently now, not just with your ears, with your skin, with your spine. The fire crackles low. You feed it another branch. Time crawls. Then something shifts. Not a noise, not a movement, just a feeling. Your breath catches. You grip your blade. The dog sing lifts its head, sniffs, then relaxes again. False alarm, maybe, but the moment sticks. Because now you understand something you didn't before. It's not just about being strong or fast or smart. Survival here is about attention. Endless, exhausting, precise attention. You make it to dawn without incident. The others stir. Light returns. You exhale. Still think you'd survive the Stone Age. Because now, you've stood the night watch. And learned that sometimes, being afraid is part of the job. The sun rises like a slow apology, gold bleeding gently through the mist, outlining trees in soft light. You sit by the dying fire. You'll shift over, your body heavy with the weight of unblinking hours. Someone brings you a warm root mash and a pat on the shoulder. Not praise, not ceremony, just acknowledgement. That's how it works here. No medals, just survival. You rest for a bit after breakfast. Not a full sleep, just enough to ease the pounding behind your eyes. When you wake again, the camp is stirring with quiet purpose. Today is about tools. Not weapons this time. Utensils, containers, hooks, needles. The tribe isn't just hunting now. It's preparing to stay. You're assigned to the carver's older women and 2 young men, hunched over stones, bones, and wood. Their hands move with steady rhythm, scraping, slicing, drilling, not with brute force, but careful repetition. You learn quickly. First, a digging stick sharpened and hardened in fire. Then a hook, carved from an old deer rib. Finally, a bone needle, tiny and delicate. You watch as they bore a tiny hole through the tip using a shard of flint and endless patience. It's mesmerizing. You hadn't thought much about sewing before now, but here, a broken thread isn't just annoying, it's fatal. A ripped pouch means lost food. A torn hide means freezing at night. A snapped cord could mean a spear slips from your belt at the worst possible moment. You sit beside one of the older women, who silently hands you a thin strip of hide. She makes a sewing motion. You follow. It's clumsy at first, but eventually the rhythm settles. Through the hole, pull, tighten, again, again. Here's your mainstream historical fact. Some of the earliest sewing needles date back more than 50,000 years. Long before agriculture, these delicate tools were crucial for tailoring clothing that could withstand cold, rain, and endless movement. Your quirky tidbit: some needles found in Siberia are so fine and symmetrical that experts speculate they were used to create decorative stitching, not just functional repairs. Even in the Stone Age, humans wanted things to look nice. You smile at that thought, because as you clumsily stitch a pouch, You find yourself experimenting an extra loop here, a curved line there. It's not efficient. It doesn't help, but it feels good. Later, you try your hand at making cordage fisting long fibers from bark and dried sinew. Your fingertips go raw from friction. The final product looked pathetic compared to the tight, braided masterpieces others turn out. But it holds, and that's enough. By midday, the wind picks up, not dangerously, just a reminder that the season is shifting. The nights are colder now. The trees have started to crisp around the edges. You hear fewer insects, more dry leaves underfoot. The tribe will have to move again soon, but not yet. There's one more task before the day ends. Storage. The elder shows you how to hollow out a section of bark, seal it with resin, and bury it just beneath the surface. A primitive cache for dried fruit, roots, even extra tools. You help hide 3 of them near the ridge, marking each with a notch on a nearby stone. It's about trusting your future self to remember. Back at camp, you sit beside the fire, hands stained, shoulders sore. Someone tosses a handful of sweet-smelling herbs into the flame. The smoke changes, becomes soft, even pleasant. One of the elders murmurs a low chant, not a prayer, a reminder. Something about gratitude for small Still think you'd survive the Stone Age, because now, you're not just moving through it, you're building a life inside it. And it turns out survival isn't always about running or fighting. Sometimes, it's about stitching a pouch, braiding a cord, or just noticing the smoke smells sweeter tonight. It begins with a sound you can't place. Not an animal, not weather. A rhythm, low and distant, like 2 stones knocked together. It fades in and out on the wind, too steady to be random, too slow to be a chase, and just strange enough to crawl under your skin. The elders hear it too. You see it in the stillness that washes over the camp, in the way someone pauses mid-scrape, flint resting quietly against bone, in the flicker of glances traded between the older hunters. The air, which moments ago was full of warmth and smoke, now seems thinner, nervous. You stand slowly, ears pricked. The sound comes again. Knock, knock, knock. Not fast, not close, but not something you can ignore. The elder gestures. Another scouting group. Smaller this time. Just 3 people. One of them is you. You don't question it. You've earned your place among them. You tighten your hide belt, tuck your flint blade where it won't slip, and grab a wrapped bit of dried fruit just in case. Then you slipped into the trees. The dog thing doesn't follow this time. Maybe it knows something. The sound fades for a while. The forest here is thick with fallen branches and old roots. You stay low, eyes scanning every shadow, every bird call. The others move like smoke siloed. Efficient. There it is again. Knock, knock, knock. You pause behind a fallen log. It's closer now. You gesture to the others. One nods, and they split left and right. You move forward slow, careful, trying not to disturb a single leaf. You reach a small clearing. There, in the middle, is a stone, and beside it, a totem, roughly carved from wood and lashed with sinew. It's planted firmly in the ground, painted with red ochre, decorated with feathers, bones, and a crude spiral etched into its center. It's a warning, or a marker, or both. The knocking sound is gone now. You circle the totem slowly, careful not to touch it. One of your scouts points to the base of the stone. Ash. Fresh. Someone was here, maybe still is. You return to camp in silence. The elder listens, then speaks with the others. They talk long into the evening. You can't hear it all, but one word keeps returning. Later that night, the decision comes down. The camp stays for now, but watch will be doubled. Traps will be reset and camouflaged, and no one walks alone. Still think you'd survive the Stone Age, because now, you've seen what passes for diplomacy out here. It's not handshakes or treaties. It's symbols stabbed into dirt, painted in blood and ash. Here's your mainstream historical facts. Prehistoric humans used symbolic markers to denote territory, taboo spaces, or sacred ground. These weren't written signs, but they carried meaning all the same. Your quirky tidbit. Some totems included items like wolf skulls, twisted branches, or intentionally broken tools, objects designed to confuse or intimidate outsiders without direct confrontation. Back at the fire, the elders begin telling an old story, one about the silent tribe who never spoke, but marked their paths with bones and vanished when followed. You know, it's a tale, but you also know it's not, because every story out here starts with the truth of on, if it bends along the way. You lie down with one hand on your blade tonight. You don't feel afraid, just ready. This world doesn't give second chances often, but it does give you signs. And tonight, you read one. Still think you'd survive. You're learning that sometimes survival means recognizing when someone else is warning you to stay away. The air is thick with waiting. The totem's appearance has shifted the mood of the entire camp, not into panic, but something quieter. Anticipation. Everyone moves a little slower. Conversations are shorter. The laughter that bubbled after the fruit harvest. Gone. You wake to the sound of scraping, not weapons. Armor, if you can call it that. One of the older hunters is binding layered bark to his chest with sinew. Another sharpens a spearhead made from obsidian, so thin and black it looks like a frozen shadow. Others prepare throwing sticks, bone knives, and fire bundles. You've seen hunting prep before. This is different. This isn't about deer. This is just in case. Still, the elders don't say you're at war. They say, be visible, but not loud. They say, show we're prepared, but not hostile. They say, stand your ground, but leave paths open. So you help build camp. Stone stacks placed at the four outer edges of the valley, just beyond sight of camp, each stopped with something not welcomes. Messages. This land is used. This land is watched. You stacked your cairn slowly, hands dusty, fingers numb from handling rough rock. When it's done, you feel something strange. Not pride exactly, but claim, as if you've pressed your palm into this soil and whispered, we are here. On the way back to camp, you find another footprint. Not old, not far, barefoot again. And this time, it's followed by a track you know too well. Dog-thing prints, but bigger, heavier. They have companions. Your stomach sinks. Still, no panic, just protocol. Sleeping hides are packed tighter, firewood stockpiled, food caches buried deeper. One group is sent to hunt, another to fish, another to collect dye plants' roots. When crushed, stained skin and stone a deep warning red. The dye smells sour. You help mix it anyway. By afternoon, you're painting lines across a flat rock near the fire circle. Not art. A message. You're not alone in the task. Children help too, smearing shapes with sticks and fingers. A spiral, a slash, a handprint. You add yours. Here's your mainstream historical fact. Handprints are among the oldest cave markings known to archaeology, found across continents and dated as far back as 40,000 years. Some were outlines, others stencils, and many were left in red ochre. Your quirky tidbit. Some of those ancient prints were from children's hands, likely involved in early symbolic rituals or games, proof that even the youngest had a part in the group's memory. As night falls, the fire circle is quiet. No stories tonight. Just the low hum of a bone flute, played by an elder who barely opens his eyes. The sound floats like smoked and soft, almost a whisper. You sit beside it, letting it soak into your skin. There's no melody, no pattern, just presence. That night your watch is early. The forest is still, too still. You swear the trees are listening, but nothing comes. No visitors, no drums, only the quiet weight of waiting. Still think you'd survive the Stone Age, because now, you're not running, not hiding, you're defending. And out here, that means broadcasting, strength, not shouting it. A single handprint in red can say, we are here, we see you, we are not afraid. You just left yours. You dream of feathers, red ones, dangling from trees, floating in streams, falling from the sky like quiet warnings you can't quite read. When you wake, the fire's still warm, the sky is bruised with morning, and everything feels off. The wind has shifted direction. You know that now, not by checking an app or watching a flag, but by how the smoke curls and where the dog thing chooses to lie. He's not asleep this time. He's staring north, the same direction as the totem, as the footprints, as the tension. You help with water fetching today. Not glamorous, but vital. The stream is clear, fast, and cold enough to make your fingers ache after a few seconds. You crouch beside it, filling carved bark bowls and tightly sealed animal bladders. Across from you, another tribe member hums quietly. It's the same low rhythm from the flute last night, maybe older than that. When you return, the elders have drawn a circle in the dirt wide, marked with stones, one for each adult in the group. You've seen this before. It's a test, a drill. What to do if someone enters the camp, where to move, who guards what, who leads who. And, surprisingly, You're assigned a voice role. If strangers appear, if it's not a fight, but a meeting, you are one of the three chosen to speak. You blink at the elder. Why me? He doesn't explain. He just taps your tally stick. That's answer enough. You've earned this. So now you rehearse. Not words exactly, those are fluid in your language, but posture, timing, tone. A way of saying we don't want trouble without sounding weak. A way of saying we're ready without inviting violence. This too is survival. Not the kind carved in rock, but the kind passed from one steady breath to the next. Here's your mainstream historical fact. Anthropologists believe early humans often used greeting behavior when encountering unfamiliar groups, displaying weapons without using them, singing, or mirroring body language. These nonverbal cues reduced misunderstandings and prevented bloodshed. Your quirky tidbit: in some early societies, give a way to say, we have no reason to fear each other, but also, we're watching. You practice your lines that night, not just phrases, but intonation, holding eye contact, standing tall without looking aggressive. You even smear a line of red dye across your cheek, not for beauty, but to say, I'm marked. I've seen. I'm not new here. The fire crackles nearby. The others do their own rituals, checking weapons, retying hide wraps, running fingers over carved bones for luck. You feel a strange calm settle over the group. Then, a sound, a whistle, distant, rising. Everyone freezes. It's not birdsong. Another tribe's call. One of your scouts returns, breathless. He saw shadows near the eastern ridge. They're not hiding, not attacking. Just watching. The elder nods. It's happening. You are chosen. The three of you, to walk forward, to speak. Your heart pounds in your throat. Still think you'd survive the Stone Age. Because now, you don't have a spear. You have your voice. And out here, that's sometimes more dangerous than any weapon. You step past the firelight, across the ash line, through the trees, toward whoever is waiting. You walk in silence. Each step is deliberate, paced, rehearsed, not out of fear, but precision. Behind you, the camp is invisible now, swallowed by trees in distance. Ahead, the forest opens just slightly, a gentle slope rising toward a clearing touched by faint morning light. You see them before they see you. Or maybe they've been watching you this whole time. 3 figures. Not many. 2 standing, 1 crouched, tending a fire that's more smoke than flame. Their thin, dark-haired skin smudged with ash and old paint. The same spiral marks from the totem, curling across their shoulders and cheek. They don't flinch when you approach. They just wait. One of your companions mutters a phrase you practiced low.com. Respectful. No reply. Then you step forward and speak. Your voice doesn't shake. It rings not loud, but clear. You say the right words, offer the right gestures. Palms open, body turned sideways. Non-threatening. You speak of land, of fire, of space shared, not stolen. For a moment, nothing. Then the tallest among them steps forward. He speaks, and it is not the language you know, but it shares bones with yours. You recognize pieces, words for food, river, danger. He draws in the dirt with a charred stick. A river, a mark, a circle. He points to you, then to himself, then between you both. You understand. This is not their land either. They're passing through. Nomads like you. Survivors like you. You exhale slowly. Still, no one relaxes completely. Not yet. There are no guarantees here. But something important happens. They offer you a stone, flat, etched with a shallow spiral. A token. Not a gift. Not a bribe. A marker. Proof that this meeting happened. That the groups crossed paths and did not clash. You accept it with both hands. Because this is the language beneath words. This is diplomacy in the Stone Age. Here's your mainstream historical facts. Early human groups often maintained complex social networks across regions, using marriage, seasonal trade, and symbolic tokens to signal peaceful intent and maintain alliances. These connections increase resilience against resource shortages and conflict. Your quirky tidbit. Archaeologists have discovered engraved stones and beads in sites thousands of miles apart, with matching patterns suggesting shared codes or cultural agreements among distant prehistoric communities. You ask, with gestures, if they've seen others. The stranger pauses, then draws a simple X in the dirt. Underneath it, a stick figure, arms raised, facing downward. That's not a good sign. The others exchange looks. Someone else is nearby, and they are not peaceful. Still, this meeting, this one ends with open palms, not blood. You walk back slowly, stone clutched tight in your fist, back through the trees, back to your people, back to the firelight. You tell the elders what you saw, what was said, what was not said. They nod. They've heard enough. You hand the elder the spiral stone. He ties it to your tally stick. A new notch. Not for killing, for speaking. Still think you'd survive the Stone Age, because today, you stood unarmed before strangers, and came back stronger. Out here, survival isn't just fire and food. It's memory and meaning. The spiral stone hangs from your tally stick now, swinging lightly as you walk cool against your hip. Its weight more emotional than physical. Everyone in the tribe saw it when you returned. No one spoke, but they looked. And that's enough. You've passed a test no one asked you to take. The following morning, the air is clear crisp, in a way that makes your skin tingle. Not from cold, but from change. Something in a season has turned. The birds sound different. The shadows feel sharper. And the elders announce what you'd begun to expect. It's time to move again. Not in fear. Not from threat. But because this valley has given what it can. That's how it works. You don't build empires here. You pass through. You borrow. And when the soil is tired and the trees no longer whisper your name, you pack your memory and your stories and you walk. You're not sat. Ready. The packing is smooth now. Every satchel tied with muscle memory. Every tool checked without thought. Even the children know what goes where. You help dismantle a shelter with practiced ease, folding hide and rolling poles until it fits snug across your back. But before the group departs, there's one last task. The fire burial. Not for a person, for the camp. You and two others gather embers from the cooking fire, coals from the watchposts, and ash from the paint circle. You pour them together into a shallow pit and cover it with a slab of bark and a ring of red stones. Then you each add a final item. You leave behind your first pouch stitched poorly, edges frayed. You've made better ones since. But that one started you. You press it into the ash and walk away. Here's your mainstream historical fact. Evidence from Paleolithic sites suggests that some early humans deliberately decommissioned campsites, leaving behind artifacts, burying symbolic objects, or marking shelters before moving on. These may have served as spiritual closures or memory anchors. Your quirky tidbit. In some ancient cultures, it was considered bad luck to fully extinguish a fire before leaving. Instead, they would scatter embers in cardinal directions, offering warmth to the forest, the wind, and the unknown. You follow the group down the valley path. Your pack heavier, but your heart lighter. You cross familiar terrain, the fruit grove, the ridge where the scouts spotted shadows, the quiet stream where you filled bark bowls and felt cold water bite your fingers. Each place is part of you now, but you don't linger. You don't say goodbye, because this world teaches you that nothing belongs to you forever. Not fruit, not fire, not even fear. Later in the journey, a child stumbles and drops a bundle of roots. You catch it before it spills. Your reflex is quick, your grip steady. She smiles at you, not with awe, but just like she knows you'll be there when the next root slips. That evening, you camp beside a large outcrop shaped like a crooked animal. It blocks the wind. It feels right. No totems here, no drums, just your people, your fire, and the open sky. You lie beneath a hide draped between two trees, head resting on bundled grass, and trace the tally stick in your hands. Each mark, each chord, each stone is a chapter, and the spiral, that one is yours. Still think you'd survive the Stone Age, because now, you're not just surviving, you're recording. And one day, someone else might find what you left behind, and understand that you were here. You wake to birdsong so layered it fills orchestral chirps, coos, a low hoot, even something that clicks like stone on stone. It's still early, the air chilled, your breath visible in tiny puffs. The outcrop from last night stands behind you, black against the pale dawn. The fire's out, but the heat still lingers in the rocks around it. You sit up slowly, stretch, breathe. Today, you don't feel like a visitor here. You feel like part of the land. The tribe moved slowly this morning, not because of danger or disorganization, but because the journey now feels purposeful. You've crossed the line between reactive and intentional. You're not just moving from fear, you're migrating from understanding. The trail today climbs higher. You pass trees twisted by wind, roots clinging to rocks like ancient fingers. The dogging trots ahead, tail swaying, nose twitching every few steps. Someone in the back hums not a song, just a rhythm to help the miles pass. As you crest the hill, the land opens like a held breath. Below is a basin, deep and green and untouched. There's a river curling through it like a sleeping snake. Fresh tracks at the edge deer boar, maybe something bigger. And near the far side, a shelter already half built. Not yours, but abandoned. You descend slowly. The group spreads out, quiet, alert, but calm. You find no totems, no warnings, just old ash, a cracked tool, a hide top too brittle with time to be useful. This place is free. The elders gather at the center of the basin. They mark it with stones, not as territory, as acknowledgement. You begin the process again. Shelter, fire, traps, water scouting, food scouting. But this time, the rhythm feels like homemaking, not emergency prep. You're assigned fire duty tonight, not to keep watch, just to tend. You sit with the flames, feeding them gently, adjusting wood so the sparks don't fly too high. Others sit nearby, weaving cordage or shaping stone points. The child who once feared the dark now plays near the edge of the light, waving a stick like a wand. You feel something shift in you, not suddenly, like the slow erosion of fear. The others come to the fire one by one, sharing small pieces of the day, what they saw, what they fixed, what they remembered. And then, the elder speaks. He tells a story, not about spirits, not about fear, about you, your first clumsy spear, your first stitched pouch, your voice, standing before strangers. He doesn't name you, but everyone knows. The story is gentle, teasing. You smile, then laugh, then blush, but you don't look away. Still think you'd survive the Stone Age, because now, you're not the newcomer, not the one learning. You're one of the voices worth remembering. Here's your mainstream historical fact. Oral traditions in communities often preserve the deeds of caretakers, peacemakers through generational storytelling. These narratives taught values, passed knowledge, and built group identity. Your quirky tidbit. Some groups use songlines, melodies tied to landscape features to preserve history and help travelers navigate vast distances. Singing the Land was both a map and a memory. Later that night, you lie beneath the stars. No shelter, this time just the sky. The stars seem sharper now, like they've stepped closer. You trace familiar constellations. The Crooked Y, the one that looks like a dog's ear, the one the elder says points toward spring. You close your eyes, still think you'd survive. Let's be honest, you already have. The fire crackles low beside you. Warmth radiates through your side as you lie on the earth. The stars above turning slowly, slowly like they're listening to your thoughts. You don't need to move now. Not for food, not for fear, not for flight, just stillness, the kind you've earned. Around you, the tribe sleeps, soft breathing, rustling of hides, the occasional click of a turning stone. Even the dog thing dreams, feet twitching, chasing something in a world only it can see. You reach for your tally stick, run your thumb across each notch, each mark, each memory. You don't count them anymore. They're not numbers. They're pieces of who you've become. Out here, time doesn't tick. It collects, and yours has become something worth holding. The wind shifts, again cool, gentle, kind. You pull your wrap tighter, close your eyes, and let the world hum around you. Because this story, it's no longer about whether you'd survive, it's about how you did, and how, tomorrow, you'll wake up beneath a sky that has always known your name.